Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. I do call this meeting to order. We will now bow our heads for the invocation. Father God, thank you for this time we have before us. Thank you for the time that we have just to come together, to pour into each other, to be wise with each other, and to execute upon the city's business. We ask that you always lead and guide our thoughts in your will and your way. In the mighty and matchless name of your son, Jesus Christ, we do pray. Amen. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Appreciate that. And now we will turn it over for a minute to Commissioner Roll, as she has some visitors and guests with us.
All right, good evening. Before we get started, I wanted to welcome the CALI program, the Community Action Youth Leadership Initiative program, if you can stand for me. And the CALI program serves middle and high school students between the ages of 13 and 17 who are interested in developing their leadership skills and becoming more involved in serving their community. So once again, on behalf of the commission, we welcome you to our meeting.
Miss Hamilton, I see you in the crowd, and you are a leader in our community, and we want to open up a small piece of time, if you would like, to say a few words about not only Coastal Action. I know you're an amazing partner with the city, but also the amazing young men and women that you have with us here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. This is very impromptu, but I do appreciate any opportunity, of course, to talk about our organization as well as some of the programs that we operate. And so, as Commissioner Roll spoke to earlier, one of our programs that we are truly proud of is our CALI, is our leadership program. And these young men and women that have been with us, in fact, we have three of our graduating seniors with us on tonight. And so these are young men and women that have been with us since probably around age 13, all the way up to graduation. And so we are truly proud of them and the impact they've made. And so one of the reasons that we have them here today is that they were very active during the election times. And that was one of the things that we talked about, and that they were very involved in, is understanding government, understanding how our elected officials are come into office, and the importance of being involved in that. And so they were very active and a part of that, and get out the vote, get out there talking and encouraging people to not only register, but to get out and just vote. And so this is one of the things we want to say, this is the fruition, because we know that you, Mayor, as well as Commissioner Roll, that y'all are newly elected, and we wanted them to see what the full process looks like when people get out and they're a part of it. And so with that, we thank you. And then we also thank you, of course, for your support for the organization as a whole, and all it is that we're doing in working with our low-income families in this area, and trying to ensure that our families are in a better place, in a better position, in order to move and get towards self-sufficiency. So we thank you so much.
We appreciate you and all you do for this city. We will now move to public hearings, and we have 3, it looks like, alcohol beverage license, and we'll call Mrs. Monday to the front.
Good evening, Mayor and the commissioners. 2 of the businesses actually have withdrew their application tonight, so we only have 1. Fine Food Mart is located at 2006 Parkwood Drive. The owner's name is Shilpesh Patel. He's requesting a retail sale of beer and wine license. A complete review has been completed on him, and nothing negative was found that would prevent him from having an alcohol license. However, the distance between the business and a residential home is 151 feet, which is outside the 1,500-foot requirement for licensing. I do present this for your consideration for a retail license. license. And he is here tonight.
So 151 feet
Yes.
versus 1,500.
The
feet.
requirement.
Okay.
Yes, it's on Parkwood, when you first turn down Parkwood, where Jackie's Seafood Mart is,
Mhm.
it's in that
Off the
building.
First.
Yes,
Okay.
and then there's a house right beside it.
At first in Alabama, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess my first question is, has the owner had any conversation with residents close or inside of that proximity?
Not to my knowledge. Is Mr. Patel, have you spoke with the neighbors?
Um, Have any of the neighbors or members of the community been alerted to, outside of any public announcement, you all opening up retail sale of beer and wine?
We have advertised for the 2 weeks requirement, but far as any complaints to me, there hasn't been any concerns.
Does this business exist now?
It's in the process of opening.
Yeah,
Yes,
we already opened that. So,
So you're
Already.
open, but you're seeking,
a retail sale of beer and
retail
wine.
If I
After the
can
fact.
add,
This is
Commissioner-
commission, this is from Pro Tem Harris. He's seeking this permission after the fact and knowing that it's not within the guidelines.
Yes, because it's the only way for approval is based upon the commission's approval
Mhm.
under their considerations.
Right, again, after the fact, knowing that this does not comply with the guideline.
Yes, he wished to continue to apply.
And if I could, Mayor, with this, since the city's alcohol license, there are certain establishments where there is an outright prohibition on alcohol licensing being issued in certain distances from certain types of businesses, like rehabilitation facilities, schools. The residential component to the city's alcohol ordinance is a discretionary measure. So if a applicant was to come forth seeking retail sales for off-premise consumption, which I believe is this particular license, that means if there is residential property within 1,500 feet of that location, that the city commission has the discretion to take that into consideration. Either they can still, you could approve it, you can obviously deny it. If there is an approval, you need to make an affirmative statement that you've taken that into consideration and that there's not a negative impact to the public health and safety of the adjacent residential properties.
But given the fact that the public has not been notified, there hasn't been a sign on the property, has there?
I believe
there
we have
been
added.
any
No,
They can't
notification?
advertise without a
without
license.
license, yeah.
But advertisement has been made in accordance with
In
the.
accordance with the newspapers,
Mhm.
yes.
Right.
so as a legal entity, the city has done the advertising that it is needed to do.
Yes, sir.
I guess the question that I have is, we often have people who will come before the commission and want us to vote on these things inside of the 1,500 feet. I think it is incumbent upon me just to ask first, is there a locked in policy and procedure by which we do these things normally, or is it merely up to the commission?
There-
Merely up to the commission.
It is up to the commission. There has been past precedent set that if in this type of event, the commission has asked that the applicant, like in the instance of a deferral, and the applicant go seek out the residential properties that would be in closest proximity and come back and either have some statement or notifying and allowing that resident to, state their opinion as to whether or not they believe it's a good idea.
If we marked it out to the 1,500 feet, is there more than just one residential property? And how many residential properties are inside of the 1,500 feet?
You got the home right beside it. And then I think there's a
Yeah,
few more
there's a
houses.
few more houses.
Yeah, there's a few more houses on down as well.
Have you spoken at all to or presented to the Goodyear MPA? No. Okay. Commissioners, are there any other questions that you all have?
I think you, go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
I just follow your line of thinking as a full commission that we try to be as cognizant as possible to surrounding residential, that they have full knowledge of what's being proposed prior to us making a decision. So I would certainly be in favor of soliciting specific information and knowledge and approval or disapproval, whatever the case may be, from those surrounding neighborhoods.
Commissioner Harris,
I echo those sentiments exactly, because remember, we have establishments already in that area, as well as we're going to be upgrading the park within that community. So we're going to be having children in that park, and a lot of activity and traffic already flowing through that area. So we definitely need to get and allow the community to weigh in on this.
thank you for that, Commissioner Harris. A couple more, Commissioner Rowland, questions. Okay. A couple more questions for me. Are you all a restaurant or just like a mart,
Convenience store. Mart.
convenience store?
Yeah,
How many other convenience stores are, I would say within 1,500 feet or within a proximity of what you are doing that sells beer and wine?
I think Davies
Davies
is across the street.
and a liquor store.
Davies would be across the street.
What
Yeah,
about
Davies
the
will be the cross street, and there's a liquor
bottle?
store.
Okay.
bottles?
Model time.
Yeah.
It's
bottle-
it's three locations.
So there's 3 locations that already are selling beer and wine. What else at your Fine Food Mart? Is this the only one that you own, or do you own
Yeah,
several?
this is the only one.
This is the only one. What else what other products are you selling out of your mart? Is it fresh fruits and vegetables or anything to that nature? Or is it just a convenience store kind of?
I'm going to add fresh food, dairy product, and I have the smoked product too. Kind of smoked stuff.
Bread and eggs,
Yeah, I'm going.
milk.
Yep.
That's always my question.
Mhm.
That would be my question too. Is this the type of facility that's going to fulfill a need for that area as far as a potential food desert area? Is it fulfilling that type of community need?
Like, are you going to be selling things like someone could go into Jackie's Seafood and then get milk, eggs, bread, things to take home that they would need for their families?
Yeah, I'm going to start that. I'm waiting on that.
And you're currently operating now, right?
Yes,
And what would you say your highest selling items are?
I just opened, so
Oh, just,
as
okay,
I'm struggling right now.
okay. Any more questions from the commission? And then I have a question for our city attorney, Corey. Hearing none. City Attorney Corey, I guess my question here is, what options does the commission have outside of denial right now to allow him time to have a conversation with MPAs, which I think should almost be mandatory in this process. We have neighborhood planning associations, which I want to defer to their leadership in the community, number one. But then for us to bring this back at a later date, once he's had those conversations with the community.
Again, I think, and as we have sort of a past precedent set of a deferral with, certain action items. I think it sounds like probably talking to Goodyear's MPA and seeking out some opinions of those residential properties located, and then we could bring it back before the commission. It's something that has been this city commission has done quite frequently, actually, if it's a discretionary decision that's falling in that.
How much time would need to be given in order for the applicant to seek the information of, making the public aware, posting a sign, talking to the MPA?
The MPA actually has a meeting scheduled.
I'm sorry?
The Goodyear actually has a meeting scheduled. I'm trying to locate the date. Maybe somebody might be able to get to it before I can. But Goodyear
the
has
8th?
8.
okay.
So February 8th, he could have conversation with the MPA.
So if we deferred this until February the 16th, which would be our next commission meeting, would that be?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, were you speaking?
I guess I was thinking out now. Go ahead.
February 16th sounds like a doable date. Commissioner Martin, what I would think about is us giving him, I hope this is in no way adversarial to what the business has to do to get started. But truthfully, I don't know if you could get really community involvement in 15 days as to what it would take to really notify the community. The MPA meeting is one thing, but then those conversations that you probably need to have with homeowners to fully get the community support that would allow the commission to really make a decision about it. I don't want to put you under the gun and say that, you got to be back by the 16th. So I would be happy to give him, that deferral time until the first, I guess that would be the first meeting of March.
March the 2nd.
March the 2nd, to be able to build that community support and have those conversations with community leaders, and then for us to be able to have a conversation with them as well.
Then I'll make a motion that we
Oh,
defer.
I'm sorry. Before a motion can be
Oh,
had, this is
public
advertised as a public hearing.
Yeah,
It would
sorry.
need to be opened up to the public for anyone here speaking for or against. I know it seems like it's probably a formality at this
No.
point, but it would.
Perfect. I appreciate that. With that, we'll open it up to the general public if anyone is here to have any discussions on the topic. Hearing none, Commissioner Martin will return to your motion.
I'll make a motion that we defer action on this vote until the February 2nd meeting, allowing time for the applicant to solicit feedback from surrounding properties in the neighborhood, and also to meet with the Neighborhood Planning Assembly, the Goodyear Park, and let them become aware of what you're proposing.
I'm
Second.
sorry. Was that from March 2nd?
I'm sorry, March
March
2nd. Did I say February? Yeah, March 2nd.
That's good. Okay, I hear first, Commissioner Harris, is that a second?
Yes.
I appreciate you for that. All those who agree show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All
Aye.
those opposed, nay. Hearing none, we will defer you until that first meeting in March. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Shout out.
Mayor, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you so much.
Have you still got this? I wanted to say that you've got a liquor store, you've got a Jiffy store on the opposite corner from the liquor store, and there's a little shopping center to the north there on Altama that I'm pretty sure has got beer and wine there. So they're pretty flush right in there right now. Just for a matter of record.
That's exactly what I was saying, Johnny, when I said that there are 3 locations.
Yeah, they've all got beer, and well, of course, you got a liquor store there. So Again, just for a matter of record.
Commissioner Case, I appreciate that. And that gives us some solid background on that issue. Just to be sure, Miss Monday, we're good after Fine Food Mart? We're not hearing Lady K's, JP's Wine and Spirits. I don't see her, so I'm assuming. Okay, thank you. Okay. That being said, I want to stop for a point of order to City Attorney Corey. Number one, there are clearly some amendments to the agenda that need to happen. Do I need to do that now, or can I do that before the section that we're working on?
I think it'd be best probably to go ahead and set it now.
Set it now.
Yes.
The second point of order that I wanted to know, these Lady K's Kitchen and JP Wine and Spirits clearly are on our public agenda. Do those need to be removed by action of the commission, or are we making some de facto decision by not discussing those right now?
If you were to open up now for any motions to amend, remove, or add items to the agenda, it could be cleaned up as easily as just making a quick motion to remove those two items and calling a vote, in addition to whatever other amendments or alterations.
Perfect. At this moment, I would like to open it up for a motion to amend the agenda to remove Lady K's Kitchen's consideration for approval of alcohol and beverage license, as well as JP's Wine and Spirits, as well inside that motion to adding a number 11 under items to consider for approval for 3 service contracts to be discussed as a single budget allocation. So that is the removal of Lady K's Kitchen and JP's Wine and Spirits from the agenda to ensure that we aren't hurting them by any chance. But then to also add an item 11 under items to consider for approval for 3 service contracts. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Appreciate that, commissioners. All those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the agenda is amended. Thank you, City Attorney Corey, for that.
So that would actually be 10B because we already have an item 11.
So we could amend it to either be item 11 and change 11 to 12, or we could go with it being item 10B. So if that cleans it up, we'll change this to item 11 and then change the city attorney's items to item 12, if that helps. Appreciate that. Moving on, we will now have public hearings on land use to consider approval of rezoning petition. And so we'll now call forward Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. Give me 1 second to share my screen here. Doesn't look like I'll be able to. I will just go right into the presentation. This is rezoning petition number 22-01 for 805 Egmont Street. Nehemiah Jane of Commonwealth Construction of Georgia LLC, who are the owners, is petitioning to rezone the subject parcel to local commercial from general residential. The subject parcel is plus or minus 0.19 acres and currently contains a home that was constructed in 1927. The subject parcel is currently zoned general residential. The adjacent parcel immediately to the south is zoned local commercial LC and contains the Yellow Deli, which is owned and operated by the applicant. All the remaining parcels in the area are zoned general residential. The applicant has requested rezoning the parcel to local commercial. This would facilitate the use of the property at 805 Egmont Street as a small retail store. The applicant states that the store would be food-oriented, offering seasonal produce and specialty food products. The business would be operated Sunday through Friday during normal daytime business hours. And they've provided a conceptual drawing of alterations to the building that would orient it toward the parking that exists at the Yellow Deli at 801 Egmont, and parking would be shared with that property. The intent of local commercial zoning is that it be developed and reserved for local or neighborhood-oriented business purposes. The regulations which apply within this district are designed to encourage the formation and continuance of a stable, healthy, and competitive environment, compatible environment for uses that are located sorry, I lost my place there, located so as to provide nearby residential areas with convenient shopping and service facilities, reduce traffic and parking congestion, avoid the development of strip business districts, and to discourage industrial and other encroachment capable of adversely affecting the localized commercial character of the district. When we go through the rezoning process, the very first item that we refer back to is the city's comprehensive plan and the character areas that are designated throughout the city. This location is within the Old Town character area. Old Town is the oldest part of the city of Brunswick, planned from before the Revolutionary War. The character area exhibits the widest mix of land uses of any part of the city, with civic and governmental structures, retail and business establishments, and a variety of historic and modern single-family homes. The downtown area has seen revitalization with restored structures and a variety of new businesses opening within the commercial areas. Parts of the character area, particularly the Newcastle, Gloucester, Norwich, and MLK corridors, fall within the Downtown Development Authority, and the majority of the Old Town character area falls within the Old Town National Register Historic District. Recommended development patterns within Old Town include mixed use or hospitality developments that are human scale, commercial structures that are human scale or neighborhood oriented with parking to the rear of buildings, grayfield redevelopment, major institutions such as governmental buildings, churches, and schools, single-family residential, new residential that matches the historic mix of housing types in the community, and the prohibition of land uses that have outdoor storage or industrial uses in high value areas. Staff recommended that the rezoning be approved. Local commercial is intended to blend and complement residential zoning and provide neighborhood scale services, and historically have been located throughout the Old Town area. This requested rezoning is adjacent to an existing local commercial zone parcel and does not represent the introduction of a new zoning category within the area. This item went before the Planning and Appeals Commission at the January 12th meeting. Discussion included the proposed use, parking, lighting, and how the proposed store would differ from the existing deli on the adjacent property. A public hearing was held and only one resident spoke. They spoke in favor of the application. The Planning and Appeals Commission recommended the approval of the rezoning with the condition that 2 allowed uses be stricken from the category. One would be a package store and the second would be a marina. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share my screen with you, but I know that you were all forwarded the report. If you, there is a summary submitted by the applicant that describes the retail store, along with proposed renderings of what the store would look like, which is basically adapting the house and adding a wraparound porch. That will go before the Historic Preservation Board for their approval separately. And we've received no public feedback within the planning department about this application. That concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have the applicants here this evening, so if you have other questions specific about the business, they'd be able to answer those for you as well.
Appreciate that, Director. To the commission, I open it for questions. Just a few from me. Can you restate what this property is going to be? Did you say a small store?
Yes, small retail store that would. Their description of it was something like an old country store where we would sell wholesome foods and products to our neighbors and the townspeople of Brunswick. That's how they described it.
Would you like for me to share the screen and show the renderings?
That would help very much, City Manager McDuffie. I appreciate you if you could.
Yeah, that's what I ran into. Somebody's sharing screen already.
Oh, yeah, someone is sharing screen right now. Do we know who it is?
It looks like one of the IT. It's labeled City of Brunswick Municipal Court and Commission Room.
Okay, that is precluding me from being able to share my screen.
You can show them here.
Yeah, no, I
That's
appreciate
about
it. Commissioner Roll just showed it to me. I appreciate it. That will actually go well into another item later. Will this property be in any way residential, or will it all be?
No, it would just be commercial.
It would just be
Just
commercial.
be commercial.
Are they connected in any way to the Yellow Deli? Is it the same?
Yes, same ownership.
Same ownership.
Same ownership.
Okay, wonderful.
And the Yellow Deli's been operating since '09. Y'all bought the property in '06, right?
Yeah, that sounds roughly correct.
Okay.
Those are all the questions I have. If hearing no other questions from the commission, I will entertain a motion.
Well, I had a couple of questions. Is most of what you're offering sort of pick up and take out? Is when you talk, can y'all, somebody come forward, please?
Yes, we'll be selling mainly packaged items that, maybe some bags of granola, some things that are mainly packaged, if that's what you mean, pick up and take out.
Are they things that
Okay.
y'all make that you're?
Most of it, but we'll mix. It's not like it'll be strictly just items that we make, but we'll try to find some local people maybe that would like to share their wares in there. Potentially, we'll just have to see how it fits with
So
what
it's
we're gonna do.
fruits
we-
and vegetables, it's
We'll have some, yeah.
packaged, it's,
A lot of times
I'm
we'll
just trying to wrap my
repackage,
head around it.
dried fruits
Okay.
and nuts, and we'll have some all natural soap products, shampoos and body care products that we make.
Baked goods.
Probably we'll have some baked goods, yeah. Bread racks might move,
Pick
but
up
a lot of that would
some,
be
pick up
made
a container of chicken salad and take it home.
possibly, yeah, things of
I'm
that
out.
nature.
Okay.
We haven't finalized the inventory that we'll have in there, but we do have several other markets that we operate, and it would be within the same field, so we know what we're after. But every location is a little bit unique just because of the items that are available in those localities. But they will carry a lot of our products that we currently make. We have a sugaring facility, maple sugaring facility up in Vermont, so we'll carry some of that product, and the other items I already said. So.
That's amazing. What is the property currently being used for? Or is it in use, or is
No, it's it's essentially vacant. I mean, we're storing some things in there, but we've had it for quite so many years, but it's not being used as a residence, even though it's zoned as a residence.
And so you all will essentially be redeveloping kind of a property right now that's not being used.
Correct.
Repurposing. Those are all of my questions. Commissioners, any questions?
The only concerns I have, and I don't want to overstep any that the other commissioners have, but in looking at the permitted uses for local commercial, it is a pretty extensive list. And I know that I think the city is currently going through some revisiting of what those permitted uses are, and perhaps coming back to the commission with an opportunity to amend and make changes to those permitted uses, because there are some, and I appreciate the fact that you are planning and appeals commission specifically struck marina and liquor package stores from the list. And there's probably others that might be better suited as a conditional use as opposed to a permitted use. So that would be my only statement on the record, is that we move forward with whatever those changes might be.
Yeah, and I appreciate your recognition of that. As you know, and maybe a little new to mayor and commissioner role, the Planning and Appeals Commission has been working now for over a year at redeveloping our zoning ordinances. One, to consolidate the information so that it is easier for residents and business owners to understand, but also looking heavily at where we have usage conflicts. Our existing code dates from the 60s, and to address problems in the past, uses were stacked in places where they may not be the most applicable, but they found themselves in a situation where they had something zoned this way and it was there, so they decided to add it in and make it compliant instead of really looking at the ordinances and what works and what doesn't work. So we actually right now held a special workshop session 2 weeks ago to wrap up our recommended revisions from the Planning Commission. Russ Moran with the Regional Commission, who's been our consultant helping us with that, is compiling that into a final document for us that we will be scheduling some public input sessions within the next 30 to 45 days. And then scheduling after that a workshop session with the city commission to walk y'all through those changes and gather some more of your input. I know that you and Commissioner Kaysen and the previous commission members all had the opportunity to sit down with Russ and go through your concerns. That's something we may be able to schedule with the mayor and commissioner role, and kind of get up to speed with that before that workshop. And the planning commission shared some of those same concerns. After and actually had a very lengthy debate about the uses at this rezoning hearing. In consultation with Brian, my concern about limiting uses is it's picking and choosing. The concept behind the zoning is that it's kind of prepackaged, so you know what you're going to get. I've expressed some concerns to Brian about striking certain uses and what that leads to down the road and the legalities of that.
Right. I think that in those discussions, it would be more appropriate if there were uses that were falling within a permitted use in a local commercial, that we address that with an ordinance amendment, rather than striking them as people come in seeking rezoning. Because what I would fear is, twofold. One, that properties that are already situated local commercial have the ability to utilize the entire list, and now a new property does not. And then two, that I don't think that if the ordinance were to allow it, I think that a property owner that could be ripe for challenging the striking of specific uses when a rezoning is being considered. So in this particular instance, I would recommend more so that the staff recommendation that the city be taken, that the rezoning be approved, but with the understanding that staff, we are going to go back through an ordinance amendment and address the use lists and try to take out those that may not seem appropriate for that particular zoning classification.
Okay. And I mean, certainly the Yellow Deli's been there. Y'all have a track record. We hopefully all enjoy eating there. And feel like y'all are good stewards for, you know, the residential area where you also live. And I think adding to the walkability of what we all love about that part of our city is very attractive. So we appreciate y'all coming forward.
With that, I don't hear any more questions. And Commissioner Martin, I want to make sure that we dealt with that topic in the right way. Is what I'm hearing is that we will approve, but staff will continue to work on monitoring and shortening that list and tightening up that list. And once that happens, they will be under those new regulations.
That's
as
correct.
well. Okay. Hearing no more questions, I'll open it for a motion.
Excuse me, sir. We need to hold public hearing.
There we go. Anyone in the general public that wishes to speak for or against? Seeing none, I will now open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition for rezoning number 22-02 for Commonwealth Construction of Georgia.
Should be 01.
It's a one.
01.
Yeah.
2201.
There we go.
Second.
Thank you for the first and the second. All those who agree show by the usual sign of aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, we appreciate you and it is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on in the agenda, we will now move on to appointments. There is a couple of mayoral appointments that will need to happen, and then a couple that will take a commission vote. For the first one, Convention and Visitors Bureau, I have one appointment, and I have decided to appoint Brad Piazza. He is the owner and CEO of Port City Partners. And Port City Partners has not only been a great partner to our city, a great partner to our community, but have also been on the front edge of really redeveloping and rethinking downtown. So I appreciate him and his acceptance of that appointment. And I see that he is here with us. And I wanted to open up the floor if you had a few words to say. We thank you much.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Corey, Ms. McDuffie, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor and a privilege to accept this appointment, and I look forward to serving the community in this capacity in my best way. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Ms. Piazza. The second appointment that the mayor has, that I have, is to the Glenn County Board of Health. And for that appointment, I will be appointing Dr. James Gowan. It is important for us that we have a voice in the healthcare community, but not only a voice in the healthcare community, but that we put forth someone with the wisdom and knowledge to be able to use that information to communicate to our city citizens the best ways to be healthy while we continue to navigate this pandemic, but also the ways that we can start to build a healthier lifestyle throughout the community. So we appreciate him for his acceptance of that appointment as well. Now we will move on to a couple of appointments that need to be voted upon. The first being the Downtown Development Authority. And for that, I will appoint Miss Audrey Gibbons. Miss Audrey Gibbons is a stalwart in our community, but but even more so than that, I think she has a pulse on the growth that we see happening in Norwood Street. She has a pulse on the growth happening within underserved communities, and her voice speaking in DDA, I think would be absolutely amazing. So with that, I count that as my appointment, and I open the floor up for a motion to approve.
Well, I would like to give further consideration. I know we have several developers on the Downtown Development Authority Board. And we had several, gosh, probably 5 or 6 different applicants expressing an interest. And my thought was that shoot, can't think with Social Compass. Hold on. Jared DeVincent, sorry, I had just, my brain went blank. Jared DeVincent might be a good applicant for that position because he owns 2 different businesses, or he's involved in 2 different businesses downtown, and might bring some further insight to that board. That he would also be considered.
No, I am happy to defer the appointment to the next meeting if we can come to more of a cohesive consensus. My view in putting forward Ms. Audrey Gibbons is that we have a wealth of knowledge from the development community already implanted in the DDA. And it is of the utmost importance that we also weigh the DDA with a community voice, a voice that understands not just downtown, but also the underserved community that downtown is often adjacent to. So the more that we can have somebody who has not only the business acumen, which I believe Ms. Gibbons has shown to have, but also is deeply connected to a business owner directly on Norwood Street that is directly connected also to that underserved community and that serves that underserved community. So I think those are the things that went into my consideration of Miss Audrey Gibbons. If we need to defer that to next meeting to have some further conversation, I am happy to do so.
Yes, because I have a I would recommend Miss Shamika Sorrells. So we definitely would need to have a discussion.
And I just want to say, Miss Shamika Sorrells, we have had a conversation with her, and we had a conversation, an interview with her about the DDA authority. We have talked to her about being an appointment on another authority. So she happily and openly withdrew her name from consideration, and full understanding that we would also be appointing Miss Audrey Gibbons. But I'm happy to, again, defer until the next meeting so we can have further conversation. So I will now entertain a motion to defer.
Let me ask, what is Ms. Gibbons' name on the list in the
No,
package?
see, we didn't have her as a person.
Again, she contacted us directly, it being an appointment that we lead and that we have confirmation from the commission. But again, if we need to defer until next meeting so you all get the fullness of that, I am happy to do so.
I would, go ahead, Commissioner.
I was just going to say, if we're following protocol and people, it's advertised, people have an opportunity to send in a letter of intent, their background information, why they think they would be a great contributor to that particular board position. But Ms. Gibbons was not included in any of our packet information. So I don't think any of us necessarily had given her any consideration because she wasn't an applicant. Is that correct, City Clerk? Okay. So, I mean, based on the other applicants and the people who have had their information to us for probably the last 4 weeks now. I mean, I'll make a motion that we appoint Jared DeVincent to the Downtown Development Authority Board.
Second.
Hearing a second, we'll now open it for a vote. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
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 Hearing two, all those opposed show by the usual sign of nay. City Attorney Corey, hearing no votes, you tell me what happens next.
It fails for lack of a quorum. I mean, a majority. I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate that. So now moving on, I will entertain another motion. I think it would seem that the best thing to do right now is to defer until the next meeting. I'm happy to have further conversation.
I'll make a motion to defer.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaysen. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Hearing a first and a second. All those who agreed, show by the usual sign of aye.
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 All those who oppose, show by the sign of nay. Seems like we have 3 ayes, and the ayes will have it. And that motion defers the Downtown Development Authority appointment to our next meeting. Now we will move forward with a Planning and Appeals Commission, which there is an appointment for an alternate member. Right now, I will open it to the commission to see if they have any suggestions.
We have one applicant, correct? Grace Green. Okay.
Would you like to put that forward in the form of a motion to approve, Ms. Green?
I have no idea if the other commissions have any thoughts or questions, but
And this is a reminder, this is an alternate member, so it's not a sitting member, it's someone who rotates in if other members cannot be there. So
I'll make a motion that we approve appointing Grace Green as an alternate to the Planning and Appeals Commission position.
Second.
Second.
you're in a first and a second. Do I now, all those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it, and we appoint Mrs. Green as the alternate member. I appreciate everyone on that. Now we are moving on to items to consider for approval. Consider of approval of January 19th, 2022 regular scheduled meeting minutes. Ms. Atkinson.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented. The
Second.
January 19th regular scheduled meeting minutes.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those agree show by the usual sign of aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are approved. Thank you, City Clerk Atkinson. Now we will have consider of approval of the reallocation of the substantial amendment for Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act funds. And we will hear from Mr. Bravo. Mr. Bravo, are you online?
Yes, I'm sorry, city officials. I was trying to unmute my microphone. So basically, this is, I think we went over this in the finance committee. It's in relation to the amendment for the CARES Act, in which $24,000 were going to be used for our senior center, and also $56,000 were to be considered for the village, the Veterans Village project, which is something that I believe some commissioners had a few questions. So
The 56,000 for the Veterans Village was asked to be deferred by the Finance Committee. So the request is amended to only request approval for the 24,000 for the senior center.
I appreciate that, that clarification, City Manager McDuffie. So right now, what stands before us is an allocation of $24,000 for the Roosevelt Harris Senior Citizen Center to repave and redo their parking lot. To add some context to what we're dealing with, we are, number one, investing in our senior citizen population, but number two, ensuring that as they are picked up and dropped off or drive themselves and get there themselves, that they don't have trouble navigating what currently is a pretty rough parking space. So I am happy that the city and the commissioners here are making a focus on city infrastructure, but not only city infrastructure that really helps our senior citizens. So however, what I do want to do is not only vote on that allocation, which is just singularly the $24,000 allocation to the Roosevelt Senior Citizen Center, but also since we bifurcated this allotment, I see that we have Ms. Reed in the office, in the audience, who is the executive director of the Veterans Village. So I would love to, if we could move in this instance, to go ahead to vote to approve the $24,000 allocation, and then open the floor up to Executive Director Reed to have some broad conversation about the Veterans Village, allow a few questions from the commission, as that project wasn't defunded. It however was deferred, so there could be more conversation with staff and commission. So right now, if I could open it up for a motion to approve the budget allocation of $24,000 to the Roosevelt Harris Senior Citizen Center.
I would move that we approve the allocation of 24,000 from the CARES Act funds, CDBG-CV3, for the Roosevelt Harris Senior Citizen Center.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Thank you, Commissioner Case. And here in a first and a second, all those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, we have finished that, and that is allocated to Roosevelt Harris Senior Citizen Center. So I really appreciate the commission and city staff working diligently to pour back into our community. With that, I wanted to open it up to Executive Director Reed to talk to the commission and for us to ask a few questions around the Veterans Village.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, commissioners. We are really excited about the opportunity to share with you what we're doing and also to answer any questions that you have, because I know that there's been some misunderstandings, should we say. I'm the president of the board of directors, and we are a nonprofit that is all volunteer at this point. There are no paid positions as of yet. None of us are being paid. What we are doing, however, is working very quickly in the direction of putting these homes in place on the property that we're currently in escrow to purchase. So it isn't our property yet. So it will be in a couple of weeks. And at that point, we will feel comfortable putting the facilities, the infrastructure in the ground. And that's what this money was for, is to work towards paying the $156,000 that it's going to cost us to put the water sewer in the ground before we do any concrete pads or move the homes that are being built elsewhere to this property. So I would like to open it up to questions, because I've been doing this for a short time. The end of September is when I became president. So I have John Bartosh, who is vice president on the board as well. And John is here. He's been with this organization since the beginning. So he knows a whole lot more about it than I do. But I will do my darndest to go ahead and answer any of your questions.
I appreciate that, Executive Director Reed. And first off, want to say thank you for the mission that you all have undergirded in and taking care of our veterans. My father was a
Yes, thank
veteran,
you.
both grandfathers. So I appreciate
Wonderful.
the work
Thank you for
that
your
you're doing.
service. Yeah.
And John, if you would like to come up to help answer questions, you feel free as well. And we thank you for your work.
Yeah, come on up. Sure.
Perfect. And with that, I know there are some questions financially that we have to work out internally with staff, but also I
Sure.
wanted to open it up to the commission as a whole to ask questions about the project, to ask how it came to fruition and kind of
Please.
future plans. So with
Great.
that, I will open it to the commission for questions.
Thank you.
I would be interested to know what community support within Glenn County that y'all have been able to garner, and as far as fundraising and just getting some of the capital and covering other expenses.
Yes, good question. We started with Rotary. There were several Rotary clubs that got together and started donating to this cause. And then from there, we went into working with a lot of the community partners like Golden Owl's Career Center, GICA. They are currently going to do several things, but they're currently building the cabinets for inside the homes, which was nice. And then they're also going to be providing classes for the veterans so that they will gain a skill that might be something that we can use here in Glenn County so they can be employed in our area. The college is also a partner. So we're working with Georgia College of Coastal Georgia. And then we've got all right, so the health is Dr. Kavanaugh and his crew at, John, help me out with the name.
Coastal
Coastal Medical Center.
Coastal Georgia Medical Association. I think they're listed as.
But they've agreed to provide services, and we will have a place right there on the property in the community center itself. And then we'll have a room where they can use and have a mini clinic for coming in and helping the veterans with whatever they might need, whether it be psychological or physical ailments. And they've agreed to do that. None of these are currently in writing. We've only talked with them and they've agreed verbally. And there are several other partners as well. The outpouring has been pretty amazing as far as the quilting groups coming together and doing 30 quilts for the beds. Somebody else who's an artist donating the artwork. We have a group that's currently building the sides to the homes and the trusses for the roof systems. And those are actually students in Illinois that are doing a project, and they're building, they're learning geometry through construction, which is very interesting. There's even videos we can send to you and let you watch them doing this. They're a group of instructors that are very much into community involvement. They're currently starting on our community center and going to build that along with the last of the 10 homes out of the 30, and they're going to be ADA compliant. So this is just an amazing project that has a lot of involvement from many different areas. The folks who are putting the homes together after the sides are actually constructed in Illinois, the students had a fundraiser and put them in Connex containers and shipped them here. They raised what, $25,000?
$25,000
Yeah.
Last Christmas to move those down here.
So they got here and they sat on the property, and then a group of a mission team actually out of the South Newport Baptist Church in Townsend has agreed to put the homes together, and they currently are doing that. And it's in the parking lot behind their church, which is on 17, right next to the smallest church in the world, America's smallest church in Townsend. But anyway, they are doing an amazing job of pulling volunteers together many of which are from Glenn County, but they are also using volunteers from all over and putting the homes together. And you can drive by and see what it looks like. We have finished one home and put it on the property so you can see what it's going to look like. We can't do the interior to that yet because of permitting and building requirements. They want to be able to see the inside, which is absolutely reasonable. So we will be doing all of the insides to the homes once we bring them here to the property. That can't be done yet.
They have to be physically inspected by the building inspector to make
Yes.
sure the codes are adhered to.
Mhm.
And we've had some great support from that department.
Yes.
I must say, they've educated me, even though I think I knew everything.
Could you please add clarification as to the criteria for qualifications, specifically Glenn County
Mhm.
homeless vets, that we're
Yes.
not going to be pulling in and
Mm-mm.
attracting.
No, ma'am.
We need to take care of our own.
Yes, we do.
These folks that have served our country that
Yeah.
are in.
There is a new study being done I think next week, and it's going to poll all of the homeless to find out more about them, where they're currently residing, under a bridge or wherever. And then also, if they're veterans.
Time count.
That's
Yeah.
it. Exactly right. And veterans are going to be included in that. They're going to be asking that question specifically. So we will absolutely look for veterans here in the area first. What we've been able to glean in the past is that 70 veterans at least were admitting to the fact that they were veterans. And those would be the people we would go for first. Absolutely. And then the other homeless, some may not have admitted that they were a veteran in the past, and they may now. So it's going to change after this study is done, but we know where they are currently for the most part. And yes, the VA is going to be working with us as well, and they will help us determine who those veterans are. Churches will help. A lot of people will have knowledge of who they might be. But to answer your question, absolutely, we will go and serve those in Glenn County first.
What about
Yep.
sustainability
Mhm.
of the entire village?
Sure.
If everybody's doing this as volunteers, sometimes you get fatigue, you get burned out. If you could please talk about the sustainability
Sure.
of the whole village and the programs that y'all are offering.
We're volunteers now, but when we transition to an operational board, we will hire an executive director and possibly others as well, depending on, the progression of the program. With 30 homes, we're not anticipating that we'll need a lot of staff because I think most of the services will either be donated from the community or they will be something that we can purchase. But to answer your question about the actual sustainability going forward, the veterans will be required to pay at least $250 a month, and that's based on what we think the utilities are going to cost. That was done 2 years ago, so it may have gone up since then, but not astronomically. And then in addition to that, they will sign a lease agreement. They will sign an agreement that they will be willing to accept services and get to a goal of self-sufficiency. And it's transitional, so they'll move in with the knowledge that they're working towards moving out. And that would be in about 3 years, maybe less. We're hoping less. But the money that you're talking about to sustain this, as far as the operating budget goes, that's something that we're currently doing fundraisers for, and we're going to have an operating budget in hand. We anticipate at least $250,000 to help with repairs, to help with insurance, anything else that we may need. It's going to be just self-sustaining. One of the things we're going to really try to get each veteran to do, and that is to volunteer in the community. Being right across the street from Manor House, they could benefit from going there for a meal, but we're going to encourage them to do things like volunteer at Manor House. That might be on, with a church that they're affiliated with. A lot of churches have also volunteered to come and help. So the plan, if we have an operating plan going forward, yes.
Okay.
If I may add one item in regards to BECA,
Yes.
Global House College and Career Academy. one of the items, as you know, they have a great culinary program.
Mhm.
Some folks may aspire to be a cook or an assistant or something of that nature. That's how we got involved with the thought of maybe some of those folks might want to really volunteer across the street in Manhouse. And they would be qualified to do that once they've attended classes and have some kind of certification. And above all, since they're going to be dealing with foodstuffs, they're going to have to be cleared and certified based upon medical standards. So basically, that's another part of why one area within our community center on a scheduled basis, because we'll have the medical folks rotate in every week. We'll have the psychological folks and social people work in their classroom training with college as well as GICA will work in. And one thought we have right now, the amalgamated electrical workers have agreed maybe to come in and do some training for some of those folks who might aspire to be electricians or electric helper apprentices. So the whole idea of this transitional program, based upon 30 houses, based upon 30 occupants, transitional, 2.5 to 3 years under a contract that they have to agree to participate in, not become settled for, but actually work for their ability to get themselves into a position where they can acclimate within the community. That's the goal of the program. And if you research all of the tiny houses that are now springing up all over the country for veterans, you'll find that the small community effort brings camaraderie. And it's because of that idea of camaraderie. It's what that veteran knew when they joined the military. They were in a squad room. They were in a barracks. They were in 50 square feet. That's how they lived, in a bunk, a footlocker, etc. So the idea of being able to gain that acceptance, being in a village with fellow veterans, is the aspiring of this camaraderie. And it's been a proven knowledge and worth to have that as a means of getting these people back on their feet. I'm just going to leave one more item and I'll shut my mouth. And that is simply, did you know that you have some veterans? And I've had the great opportunity of going out after 12 o'clock at night, finding some of these behind buildings in cardboard boxes or living next to dumpsters. Would you believe that some of those have money belts on them because they don't know the first thing about banking? That also is scary when you think about it. So one of the things we're going to do is self-sufficiency as part of their being able to become acclimated back to the community. It may mean we're going to have to teach them banking, but there are ways of doing it. And that's why VA is going to get heavily involved.
I had a question. How do you determine which 30 individuals will be able to live in the homes? If there's 70 that you think that are out there and then only 30 homes available. So how would the application process work?
We will use the coordinated entry system. We will go ahead and use other assessment tools, so to speak. We will not take anybody that has such severe issues that we wouldn't be able to handle, that living by themselves in a tiny home in a community might not work, based on these assessments. And we would then refer them to another facility that might be able to help them. So we know that they're not all going to qualify. We also know that they're not all going to agree to sign the agreement and say, I want help. I want to, enroll myself in this program, so to speak. So we'll just start working through the process as they come to us or we find them, then we'll go ahead and just work for the first 30. And then we'll have a waiting list for those that might not have been able to get in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Harris. You initially indicated that, and it's designated as a veterans village.
Yes,
but you said that there is a potential or possibility for other homeless people.
No.
To be, okay.
No. Sorry, if I led you to believe that, that is not correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I know it's designated as a veterans village. You touched on the safety issue that is also in my mind. because that being a volatile area already. And my having a concern of what type of safety measures would be in place regarding the addition of the veterans to that area, as well as you saying that this is designated as temporary housing. How are you going to mandate that, or how are you going to regulate that that it is temporary or transitional housing? Because I went to a training in GMA, and they were already struggling in that area of transitional housing. So how are you all going to be able to mandate or regulate that it is transitional housing? And then if a veteran reaches that transitional period, but is unable to transition, what's next?
I think we need to, Commissioner, if we will, transition based upon the definition you're giving is, or alluding to, is something they might be in there for a day or two, or a week or two, or whatever. The bottom line is they are going to be in a contracted role for a minimum of 2, maximum of 3 years. The purpose of the community center is to also have someone available during the evening hours. There's also a fencing around that to match the fencing that's up the street with the other housing in that developmental area. So basically, it's just not going to be a wide open area for people to wander in and through. The individual who's going to be responsible in that building during the day, 24 hours, will have the capability of, let's use the term, policing. The bottom line also is, keep in mind that some of these individuals are homeless, but many of them are really sharp and can be easily assisted in helping in the process of policing the area. An item that I have been involved in other states, I worked 35 years in the military, had me move around. The bottom line being is this: we always got involved with what we all know as neighborhood policing, something we've gotten away from. Having someone readily available that someone could look up to. We even in one area had one of our little buildings in Pennsylvania that we turned into an opportunity for a substation for the local police to hang their hat up and respond to local actions without having to drive a distance. So basically, there's a lot of ways of solving that particular problem. And I think once those individuals become part of the program, many of them will start policing themselves.
And we have also talked with the Brunswick Police Department because we want to partner with them as well.
Yeah, and we don't so much as hang our hats on the policing part of it, but the residents become invested in the community and participating and giving back to the community. So that's my concern anyway, is that they become vested in the community as long and as far as they can, but also be productive citizens and giving back to that area and showing a different way to move and do things in that area. So I look forward to whatever betterment we can bring and help the veterans with, as well as that community as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have an additional question. I believe you said that it was going to cost, there was a cost of $156,000 for the water and sewer.
That's correct.
You're asking for $56,000 from the CARES CDBG funding. Where's the other $100,000 coming from?
We have a donation from Nine Line Foundation.
From, I'm sorry. what
Nine
that-
Line Foundation, they help veterans around the country, and we have a donation from them.
To fulfill the full
Yes, ma'am.
100,000.
We do.
Okay. And when is that available?
Now,
Okay.
Who will own the property when you go to closing?
Golden Isles Veterans Village, Inc. will own the property.
Currently, it's an LLC.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
And
Thank you.
currently, there was an MOU in place when I started this, and that MOU said 3 years, which to me was not acceptable because we needed to own the property before we did anything to it. So the LLC has agreed to sell it early, and we are in escrow right now. And in about 2 weeks, we will own the property.
Thank you.
Welcome.
When you said the LLC has agreed to sell the property, what LLC are you referring to?
I don't know the name. It was Cornell Harvey, so I don't know.
That
The
property
name.
at one point in time, which is 11 parcels, if
Mhm.
you know the area.
0.99 acres.
0.99. Okay, basically, it was a property that he purchased and left empty or vacant until we, about 4 years ago, had an inkling that we would like to do something for veterans in this geographic area.
When you say he,
Cornell
Cornell
Harvey,
Harvey.
former Mayor Cornell Harvey.
so he purchased the property
Yes,
and,
long time ago.
At one
now-
point in time, he did.
okay, and now is selling it to you. all.
That's
Correct.
correct.
And all the titles and all the documentation are in William
That is
Lincoln's
correct.
office right now, waiting for closing.
That's correct.
And currently, the entity that is purchasing the property that will own the property is an LLC
Incorporated.
incorporated. It is it in the process, the entity that will own the property, is it in the process to moving to being a 501c3?
We
or-
are a
You
501c3.
are, okay.
Yes, we are. Mhm.
Is there any thought that has gone into, or have you all crunched the numbers on what you will save by the Veterans Village being a 501c3, therefore not, you're not going to pay the full freight of tax because you're a tax exempt entity. So has there been any thought of,
We'll still have to pay property tax.
Property tax.
That won't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll still have to pay that. The only thing that the 501c3 does for us is
Mhm.
that somebody can donate money to us.
without, right?
That's
yep,
correct.
without-
That's the only major benefit.
there
That's
you
it.
go. How
Mhm.
long have you all operated?
January 2020
January
is when we got the 501c3 status.
Okay.
Mhm.
And before that, I guess I'm trying to figure out what brought the group together, kind of what was you all synergy to come together? as a
It was
group?
because of a group similar to this in Savannah. And it was some Rotarians that went to a presentation in Savannah that really thought this was something that we could benefit from here.
Mhm.
And that's how it all started. And that was back in 2018.
Is the group a part of any national group or is it standalone?
Oh,
by itself?
standalone totally.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess my base question is along the lines of Commissioner Martin, when you talk about the longevity of the project,
Yes.
I will be very forthright and honest that sometimes what I've seen in spaces is, 501c3s use their tax exempt status to hold down kind of a piece of property until it moves into a space where it can be developed into something else. Do you all see this property in perpetuity
Yes.
being a veterans village and
Yes.
never to change
Absolutely.
over to anything else?
Mhm, absolutely. Yeah, this has been a lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah.
And so, no, this is not going to be a part-time. This is not going to be a temporary thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what are you all, you said you've been locked in, you've been pretty locked in since 2020? Did I hear that right? You guys formalized in 2020?
Yes.
What has been kind of your year-to-year operating budget? And do you feel like that is enough to bring this fully to fruition?
We haven't even built the homes yet. So 2019 was hardly anything in the budget at all. 2020 was it wasn't much more.
Mhm.
2021 is really the first year that we've done much of anything.
Mhm.
And so this is just getting going. Now we are building the homes. We're going to put them on pads, concrete pads, and build the infrastructure. And that's now is when we're really getting moving on the project. So there really hasn't been much until now. And then once the village is totally built and we have residents that we're going to accept, that's when it's going to be turned over to an operating board that will then formulate, make sure that the services are correct for each individual case of each veteran. It's going to be a totally different look then. Our mission right now is to get it built and get it ready for veterans.
That's perfect. I think a deeper question I have, and it may be something we figure out with Chief Jones and others, is truly a question of security. We understand that our city has a homeless issue, not just homeless veterans, but
Right.
homeless issue across the board. And we also understand that if not done correctly, a lot of times those areas become hotspots for things. And what I do understand in that process, and I guess this is a follow-up question, is that we do have a younger population in the space. You're right next to, or very close to McIntyre Court. You're very close to other housing authority properties, but also just that community as a whole. Have you all had any kinds of conversations with either the Community Neighborhood Planning Association and or other wraparound services in the area? Because I know Rise Risley is building out their plan. You got Manor House there.
Right.
You got others in that service area.
The group that originally started the concept not only met before the city fathers on 2 different occasions in open meetings, and the public of the area was invited to those items because some of us went around and informed those individuals that this meeting was based upon what they saw taking place and us clearing that property that they lived across. If you know that property, it became an opportunity of a training ground for jungle warfare. So basically speaking, it was atrocious. We've had a number of people from the local community, to include one group of folks from behind on Amherst, that came across and said, thank you for helping clean up the area. We also went before the historical committee, and we also had to present what we were going to do to have it blend into the community based upon we were in the historical district. And our building that we came up with will adhere to that based upon the colors, the siding is going to be. The roofs are metal. The fact of the matter is that the ground's being maintained in such a way that it's not going to allow for overgrowth, et cetera. There's going to be paths weaving through the houses that are under those big, huge oak trees. And why did we leave those trees? Not to quote appease anyone, but we left those trees there because where are these veterans living now? They're living in thickets, in woods, and wherever. So that would give them some familiarity to the area, having those big shade trees in some cases overhead. So to answer your question, we did publicize, we did have it advertised. It did not bring any adverse reactions from the community. As a matter of fact, when we brought that one house down and it's on the corner as a billboard to here's what's going to go there and put the signs up that said coming soon, we had a few neighbors that came out and said, oh, they look great. We'd love to see the whole thing complete. So again, is everyone in the area probably jumping up down Whistle Dixie? No. But remember one other thing, it's that same area that let some of that area go to waste.
I think the other question I have inside of that is, if we are talking about homeless veterans, the prospect of them getting to the college or to GICA seems not plausible.
Unless we
Does
have a van.
GICA or the college come to you all to do that training, or do you all provide transportation for those who would, how do you meet that need? And the reason I ask that question is because I know, there will be some type of job training and things as Rise Risley builds out.
Yes.
There is probably some synergy to be had, and I like how you guys are thinking about them working over at the Manor House and whatnot. But I think it's really important for me that when we think about this project, that it live holistically in a service area, because what we know is we could probably provide free education, but then the barrier of getting to that next step is something that, we probably want to think about.
We do.
And the last piece that I have a question about is currently it sounds like you all's rehab. I guess my base question is, will you all have a locked in rehabilitation plan? Obviously, when people are stepping into this issue, they are homeless, not proxy of that they want to be homeless, but there's probably some addiction. There's probably some, socioeconomic and emotional things that need to be, worked through to really get them in a space where they're ready to step back into society. So I think the question that I have is, am I hearing that there currently isn't a rehab plan, and the acting board that you put in place will flesh that out to begin to let us know what that'll look like?
What we've adopted are things that have worked elsewhere. And usually if you take somebody in that is addicted, it's going to be very difficult to work with them and provide those services. If it's to a point where we can't do that, therefore they need to go somewhere else. So that's the reason why we have a very extensive analysis, should we say ahead of time, an assessment that tells exactly where these individuals are and is it something that's doable, because we want it to succeed.
I appreciate you coming, Executive Director, and thank you for your service, John, and thank you for coming as well. I don't want to close it, if there are any other questions from the commission.
I am available anytime also. If you need a brochure, I've got
We have
brochures
plenty of
with me. The information on there is very specific about what the homes are going to look like in the inside, as well as our goals and objectives and how much it's costing and that sort of thing. So
I'll put some of those right up here on the table. If anyone is interested in the brochure, they can please take them.
That would be nice to provide them to us. Can we get those and get them put in our?
Yes.
Thank you.
Here, I've got a question for our attorney. Is there any legal problem with what we're doing here, Brian? Anything?
In terms of
Criteria or?
Anywhere to cover the money here? I'm hoping and wishing and praying that they're going to be successful in doing this thing and getting it all together. But if we put the infrastructure in here,
well, there's no vote tonight, so it might be something that if I can look into and maybe discuss further.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. And we certainly appreciate you folks for coming and giving us the information you've given us. Thanks so much.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate you all. Thank you so much. With that, we will now move on to item 6, which is consider approval of financial reports. Director Mills.
Good evening. You have before you the December 31st financials. At that point, we are 50% through with the current fiscal year. You will see our monthly revenues and expenditures. We had expenditures over revenues of approximately $451,000. However, we did have 3 pay periods in the month of December, which accounts for most of that. Year to date, we are at net revenues over expenditures of $4.2 million. We have $8.6 million on deposit in the general fund. 300,000 of that is set aside for the Perry Park property sale. Lost, we are up 21.28% for the month of December over the month of December last year, which equates to $117,000. Year to date, comparing December 21 to December 20, we're up 12.64%, which equates to approximately $475,000 increase in revenue over the same period. Our title ad valorem tax was up 23.45% for the month of December as compared to last year. Title ad valorem year to date is up 5.75%. from the same period last year, which is approximately $10,000. On the second page, you have SPLOST 6. And you'll see the columns at the top, the total amount we expended as of December 31st. And then the next column is amounts we received on joint projects and other, and some contributions. So in that third column over, you'll see the city has expended $11.8 million as of December 31st. We had an original budget of 13.8, an amended budget of 15.5. We have a little over $4 million still in cash on hand as of December 31st. There's a schedule there for you to see. At the very bottom, it shows what we anticipated collections to be and then what they were, which was a difference of $1.9 million. Some of that money has already been allocated, and we have $208,000 still there in unallocated excess collections. In the middle of the page on the left, you'll see I've got that $208,000. We have a Georgia DCA aviation fuel tax of $16,000, and we have earned interest in that fund since its inception of $236,000, which gives us approximately $460,000 that has not been formally allocated. The next page, SPLOST 5, I still have a note there. We have $1,360,000, and those funds have been reallocated for the purchase of a fire department ladder truck. Norwich Street Commons Fund, there's been no activity in that fund this year, other than interest earned on the funds that are there of $799. We have a cash balance in the Norwich Street Commons Fund of $336,000. The Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, you can see grant money, $90,000, program income, $21,000. We have transferred over $40,000 from the general fund. We had budgeted $151,264 to transfer over from the general fund for this fiscal year. And at this point, I've only transferred a little over 26%. So we're well within what we are anticipating having to move over for that. There's a cash balance there of approximately $17,000. I did add the ARPA fund down at the end of this page as requested. The initial deposit we received in June of 2021 was $4.6 million. We have earned approximately $21,000 in interest income since that time, for total funds available of $4,628,000. We have made loans, or not loans, we have dispersed grant, basically money, to 3 different businesses in the city for back to business grants for a total of $34,000, which leaves us the remaining fund balance as of December 31st of $4.6 million. And of course, that's just the first distribution of the ARPA funds. There will be another deposit for $4.6 million that will be coming sometime this year.
I only see 2 back to business things funded. Was
okay, they're made up of, the 19,000 is made up of 2 companies.
Okay, thank you.
15,000 is one company. So yeah, I didn't list them by name. That's the total. And I'm sorry, and they're shown separately based on the businesses that are located in the Downtown Development Authority boundaries, and then the others are those that are not located in the Downtown Development Authority district. Okay, on the next page, you have your sanitation fund. Total revenues of $1.7 million and operating expenditures of $842,000, which gives us a net of operating income of $849,000. But once again, please remember that a lot of that money has been collected already through property tax billing. So that money has to get us through, until we start collections again next year. The cash balance In Prime South of 887,000. There's 1,700 at Georgia Fund 1 for total cash of 889,000. And then there's also 194,000 restricted for expenses for the T Street landfill. I'm sorry, I have a dry hacking cough. I'm trying to keep that from happening. Trash pickup for December, $126,000. You'll see year-to-date, 765,000, and that's basically what our trash pickup for the month runs, the bill we pay to Republic every month. Illegal refuse cleanup, 13,004 for the month, 39,000 year-to-date, and street sweeping fees, 7,000 for the month of December and 26,500 for the year-to-date number. The stormwater utility fund has fees collected of $902,000 and interest and penalties earned. This brings us to a total income of $905,000. We've spent $557,000. We have a net for the year of $348,000, but there is a cash balance on hand as of December 31st of $770,000. There were no expenditures for animal control, traffic control, or recreation department expenses, and have not been for this fiscal year thus far. The last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. And you'll see the total expenses for the month, $14,800. And obviously the majority of that money is for salaries and benefits. And then they had a heating and air conditioning repair that was rather sizable in the month of December of $2,500. But year to date, $68,000 on the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. You know, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
We'll open it to the commission now for questions.
I don't have a question. I'm just making an observation. The Roosevelt Lawrence Center. I would like to know more about what's the plan and for any renovations or updates or for that center. But we were talking about considering $56,000 towards the infrastructure for the veterans area or housing area. What are we doing over at Roosevelt Lawrence Center? That's not a question you can probably answer.
Right.
But I just want to.
Right. Okay. I will check into that. I'll talk to Ms. McDuffie too, and we'll look into what the plan is.
This is City Manager McDuffie. And I think the Roosevelt Lawrence Center, we did have some plans, but it was kind of hindered because of the SPLOST. There was $750,000. And to be honest with you, since the SPLOST wasn't approved, we did not go back to that to see if there were portions of it that could be done with the smaller amount of funding. But I think it is something that we need to look into. But in the scheme of reclaiming the recreation, that is certainly a concern that we need to put some attention to very soon.
I'm happy to hear you state reclaiming.
Very much so.
Commissioner Harris, thank you for those words. And, really at the same time, I want to echo that sentiment of continuing to focus on city-owned infrastructure as we look to rehab and build up those entities that give back to our community. So not only the Roosevelt Harris Senior Citizen Center, which definitely needs some work. We have 8th Street Rec that I know you and Commissioner Roll and this entire commission has been thinking about as well. And City Manager McDuffie, I couldn't agree more as we begin to think about what it means to reclaim our parks and rec. Definitely focusing on some of those entities. So I appreciate that. Director Mills, I thank you for your presentation, and now I will consider a motion to approve our financial reports from December 31st, 2021.
Motion to approve financial statements as presented.
Here first, or your second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, we approve the financial reports. We thank you, Director Mills. Now we will move on to the point number 7, consider approval of resolution number 2022-01, authorizing staff to apply for the coastal incentive grant on behalf of the Kidsport Museum. Director Hunter, thank you so much for being here. And we also have Ms. Kelly Nat, who I know is a part of the board and a member of our community. So we would like to open it now to Director Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. From time to time, the city partners with a number of organizations around the city to bring new ideas and new services and new facilities. The Kidsport Museum effort has been around for a couple of years, working toward opening a children's STEM museum in downtown Brunswick. So focus on science, technology, engineering, math, with the theme of our port city as the basis for all of that. One item that they are working toward is applying for a coastal incentive grant. Coastal incentive grant is a sub-grant program managed by Georgia DNR's Coastal Resources Division, but it's funding through NOAA that comes through as part of the Coastal Zone Management Act. Each year, the DNR holds a competitive opportunity for grants to go to the 11 county coastal area. And typically those are allowed for cities, counties, and state agencies to apply for, but nonprofits can apply for those funds in partnership with one of those eligible entities. And Kidsport, as they're going to be centered in downtown Brunswick, approached the city about being their sponsor and partner for this application. The Kidsport Museum discovered a need in the Golden Isles for a children's space that depicts vital waterways while educating our community and tourists on our coastlines, ecological, economic, and historical importance. Recognizing this problem, Kidsport Children's Museum would be an engaging, hands-on, simulated city where children could learn through interactive STEM activities and regional history-based activities. Kidsport would be a place of imagination, learning, and discovery. The board is currently contracting for work for the build-out of Kidsport Museum in downtown Brunswick with the goal of opening to the public in 2023. What they're asking for within the Coastal Incentive Grant would fund the design and acquisition of and construction of the Port of Brunswick water play exhibit within the museum. This will be a major educational and exhibit feature within the facility. The goal of the Port of Brunswick water play exhibit is to increase children and families' understanding of the responsible development and awareness of our unique ecosystems, importance to the economy, and inspiring pride and stewardship. They would use the funds solely for design and material acquisition for this exhibit. This would be a 2-year grant application that would be $25,000 each year from DNR. The city's commitment with this would basically be my time in helping them coordinate this project and serve as the reporting pass-through for the grant process. The rest of the board would provide in-kind service that would help toward the matching funds as well as cash for the development of the exhibit. Within your packet, there's a very lengthy PowerPoint that shows the development of the exhibit or Kidsport itself. And I'll see if I can share. I can share now. Good. I just really want to point out one particular slide within their presentation. We can almost see it here. There we go. On the screen now is a sample of what this water play area would look like. This is one that is at the Louisiana Children's Museum currently. And the vision would be to show Brunswick's converging rivers and channels out to sea. Children will be able to interact with the cargo ships, shrimp boats in the harbor, flanked by marshlands and tidal creeks. And it will be a wet area, so they will be able to play and interact with the port, probably in a manner that most of us don't get to. But they are excited about this opportunity and this potential grant to help further their efforts. Kelly Knight, who's one of the board members as well, can fill in any blanks that I've left out, but staff is asking to approve the resolution that is required from DNR to show that we are partners in this and assist Ms. Knack making the application for the February 11th deadline. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do they own the buildings at 1507, 1509 Reynolds? Do y'all own those? It wasn't really specific.
No, we do not own the building. We are in discussions to finalize a lease for that space. It would be a long-term lease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And the total interior square footage is 13,000 square feet?
It's actually approximately about 9,600 square
Okay.
feet. We would be opening in multiple phases. We're really hoping that we'll be able to open phase 1 in sometime early in 2023, with the idea that we'll be able to put in some initial exhibits and begin to allow folks to utilize the space. We've gotten a couple of underwriting sponsors and we have a few others that are in the works so that we can open up a toddler area as well as other hands-on exhibits to start activating the space. Many of you have probably seen us at First Fridays. We've been doing pop-up exhibits every week. We were at Porch Fest, or every month we were at Porch Fest. And the reception that we've had throughout the community for Kidsport is overwhelming. So what we are really trying to do at this point is to continue our fundraising efforts so that we have a sufficient operating budget to be able to manage the terms of the lease. That's what we're going to use the remainder of 2022 largely to do, is to secure those commitments while we are developing this, very critical centerpiece, which would be part of phase 2. We are working with the contractor, the vendor who actually did this particular exhibit, so that they have a really good feel for how these things can be laid out, and have already done some conceptual renderings and, helped to put together a budget for this, which, will really be, partly driven by whether we can get this grant money so that we have the ability to get it designed. This grant would be a really significant step, and I think quite critical to continuing our fundraising efforts. We have a little bit of, a chicken and egg. We're not open. People are very interested and willing to support us. But the more that we can achieve in getting some of these grants that we're applying for, I think that that's going to give a lot more security to the other potential fundraising sources as well, that we're going to make this happen.
Okay. Yeah, it's It's great that y'all have identified some space because I know it's taken some time to be able to do that. So I guess you envision being there, like you say, long-term, should the need or desire be to acquire or look for a larger footprint, that would be down the road at some point.
Indeed, although it's interesting. I mean, these museums are successful almost regardless of the size of their footprint. Some of them are as small as 2,500, and then, there are, multiple floor children's museums in major metropolitan areas. So, we think that with some, careful planning, and, we have access to people who can help us with that, regardless of the size, even when we get kicked off in a sort of smaller version, we're pretty confident that we're going to get the attendance.
It's exciting.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. So you all are asking the city to be will the city be the fiscal sponsor for these monies?
In kind.
We would be the reporting sponsor. All the monies would come to us and then go to Kidsport as we move through that process with DNR. So
Okay.
I'm assuming, yes, we would be fiscally responsible.
Yes.
One of the things that, from my experience, having done this before with the Coastal Incentive Grant, is that we will have a grant agreement with DNR, but we will also have an MOU with Kidsport, so that the terms and who's responsible for what will be very clear.
Okay, and they'll draw down monies via a request from the city regarding whatever they're going to be doing for that $50,000. I know it's
Yes, ma'am.
25 each year.
Yes.
So what is it? How much time? I know you're saying in kind time that the city would be, I guess, donating in kind time. What does that look like exactly, in what specific amount of time?
So that was, I think it was, I want to say it was 40 hours over the course of a year of my time. And when you count staff time, you get to count overhead and benefits and all of those things. To full disclosure, I've been working as a part of this effort. As some of y'all know, my past in museums is hard to get out of. So, it's something that I don't anticipate really my city time being taken up with this. I find time to do it. And, but obviously my salary is for roughly, I think it was, like I said, about 40 hours a year spread across 12 months. And that's really nominal when it comes to providing the match. The rest will be in cash.
But the city is not going to be.
We would not be responsible for the cash match, correct?
Okay. I like the premise of it. We heard about it some years ago, but we hadn't heard anything about it. It's probably been maybe 3 or 4 years, if that long. I remember the concept being brought to us, but I haven't heard any more about it until now.
This is City Manager McDuffie. I just want to interject. One of my thoughts was I was very excited to see this project, and I thought it would maybe at some point be an opportunity for us to memorialize the Golden Ray and have a simulation or something exhibit-wise that can highlight that particular, although it's considered a disaster, it is very unique to our community. And I know Commissioner Kaysen has always wanted something, memorable for that particular event. And to me, I could just see one of those big yellow cranes, simulation in the middle of the museum, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, so I can speak to that for a moment. We certainly have been thinking about that as part of our conceptualization of this exhibit. Perhaps a little bit more generically about the concept of pollution and the kinds of things that can happen in coastal waters, be it pollution, be it shutting down shipping channels, all of the different kind of ramifications of these kinds of events are the kinds of things we want to teach kids about.
I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing to me. I think anything that promotes STEM education for our children, and especially in such close proximity to those who don't have the opportunity currently, so they can walk and touch and see and feel. So I appreciate you all bringing it forward. The only question I have is just to follow. Did you say the grant comes from DNR?
Yes.
Have we applied for the grant before? Is this our
Yes,
first
we've
time?
gotten a number of these grants over
Awesome.
the last few years.
Good deal.
The Mary Ross Park Master Plan was funded from that program. Garrow, you've had three or four.
Good deal.
So it rotates around between different departments depending
Okay.
on needs.
The litter ordinance, clean community
Yeah, clean
ordinance,
community ordinance was
and our
one.
stormwater.
Our stormwater.
Awesome. Good deal.
Yeah.
So we've been in the practice of filling out the worksheets to
Almost
show
every-
the
There
time.
That's what I'm trying to
Almost
touch on.
every year,
We-
we've got an application.
It's it. Yeah. We know how to do it. Well, that's perfect. I appreciate you guys. I will now open it for a motion to consider approval of resolution number 2022
I'll make a motion to apply for the coastal grant for the Kids Ports Museum and approve the resolution.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, we'll now call the vote. All those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, you all are approved. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you
This
very
looks
much.
like the front runner to the metaverse coming to Brunswick.
I know what I'll be working on tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
Fantastic.
We got
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Case to talk about the metaverse. That in itself, Naomi, you getting this down.
Hey, I'm in it.
We will now have Director Alverson come to speak to us on items 8, 9, and 10. We won't consider them together, but I know you're just up here for all of those. So I just
Okay. All right.
appreciate you.
We'll go through all three of them real quick. The first of these is a purchase of a mini excavator with a mower attachment. We currently use a small excavator because of its size. It's easily accessible several places where our larger equipment can't. We use it. Would use this new machine primarily for ditch mowing. It comes with the mowing attachment, but we'd also use it for excavations such as pipe replacements and those kind of things, subsurface work. Like I said, we have a current mini excavator. It's a little bit smaller than this proposed one, but it's about 15 years old and starting to have some mechanical failures and some issues that go along with it. We put out a request for proposals for this piece of equipment with some minimum specifications. I've listed the results of those proposals there, and those results are attached as well. The vendors also, we asked them to provide any add-ons or accessories that may be beneficial. For this, we are recommending we go forward with an additional 60-month extended warranty on the machine, full coverage on the machine, a ditch grading attachment, and a trailer for transporting the machine around town. It brings the total cost of this machine to $103,281.60. We would recommend purchasing this machine through the Georgia Municipal Association's lease purchase program. That's a low interest loan program where the cost of a machine or a piece of equipment is divided over 5 years. That would give us an annual payment of approximately $21,000. And because of the date of the machine and the date of the purchase price, our first payment would become due in next fiscal year, 2023, and then carry on through fiscal year 27. And these payments would be made from the stormwater utility budget, from our machinery and equipment line item in the stormwater utility budget. Go ahead and go through the other two as well, or you want to talk about this one first, or?
Yeah, no, what we'll do is we'll stop between each one so we can go and take the vote and move forward. That way we
Okay.
don't have any confusion, and I appreciate you on that. And the one thing that I had, because I know you did an amazing job presenting this inside of the finance committee, is the additional trailer and mower hookup coming from Bobcat as well?
Yes, sir.
It is, okay.
Yes, all this comes from Bobcat.
All of it's gonna come from Bobcat, solid. And the next question I had is, I know you and I talked about it in the finance committee meeting, but I wanted to put it out there too. Does this help us if we are able to allocate the dollars to fix the smaller one and, you know, train some people? It allows us to spread our wealth a little bit and spread out the amount of things that we can do.
It would, we could, you know, make some repairs and keep the other one running for a period of time. And we had some discussions today about potential employees that we have that we may could start to train on that kind of thing. So
I
kind of looking
appreciate
in
you
that
for that.
direction.
Yes, sir. Additional questions from commission?
Gary, were state contracts considered?
We did look at it a little bit, but you know, a lot of times, I shouldn't say, I'm sorry to say, a lot of times the RFP process can bring a lower price. You know, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We did look at it, but I feel like this price here is better than we would have gotten on a state contract for this machine.
Thank you.
The only question I have really might pertain to all of them, and it's probably more directed at Ms. McDuffie, is I thought at one time we were trying to stagger purchase of large pieces of equipment so that we didn't end up in one fiscal year or 2 fiscal years with a fire truck and, you know, a lot of equipment that had to be acquired. Was that the thinking that was moving forward, Ms. McDuffie, or not?
Well, you know, it's not necessarily by department, and the fire truck is going to be funded under another mechanism, so it won't be impactful to the budget. And there are some equipments that will be rolling off of the lease pool in time for these. So there will be a slight overlap, but you know, we budget quite a bit or try and put money in. So there is some overlap in terms of these purchases, but not, I mean, I guess bringing the fire truck is a little bit different. But as far as the public works equipment, I think it is some kind of staggering of that equipment because we will have some that'll be rolling off of the lease pool.
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly great that we have that balance of $770,000 on hand in the stormwater utility fund that helps us to be able to make these purchases and spread them out over 5 years. So that's good.
Right. That's exactly what that was created for. So it's working like it should.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission? Hearing none, I will open it for a motion to approve to purchase a mini excavator with mower attachment.
Make a motion that we approve the purchase of the mini excavator.
Mini excavator with mower.
Mini excavator.
You know, we appreciate that. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. the purchase is approved. Moving on, consider approval to purchase a compact tractor and backhoe.
All right, this piece of equipment is very similar situation. We use this machine a lot of for accessible in a lot of small areas, primarily sidewalk work, but smaller excavations and that kind of thing where the larger machinery can't access. We do have a similar machine. It's a little smaller, and in this case, it's several years older than the other one was, and it's in worse shape than the other one. So same way we put out RFP again as well. For this one, we only received 2 proposals. Those are shown there. With this, the purchase price of this one, that 28,000 base price, includes a 60-month warranty, but we are also recommending to add on a root grapple attachment for would assist in loading limbs, vegetative debris, and that kind of thing. Around town, we can use that to help picking up yard debris and that kind of thing as needed. That would bring the total purchase price of this machine to $30,761.12. With this machine, this is budgeted. We would pay for this outright out of budgeted funds in our public works budget under the equipment support category in this current year's budget. So that money is there right now, ready to be spent. So we would recommend purchasing the Bobcat tractor for $30,761.12.
Garo, how does that differ from the current grapple truck we have? If I'm calling it the correct thing, that comes by, and it's got to have a certain amount of clearance because of the way it moves and grabs stuff. And
This is a similar machine. This is just a smaller scale. And this would be more of a front end loader. That, like you said, does have to have a vertical clearance, can operate as well under trees. But it's a larger machine. It would grab larger loads and that kind of thing. Whereas this one, it doesn't have to have that vertical clearance, but it may take it 3 or 4 trips to grab the load, where that one would get in one load maybe. So it wouldn't be as efficient for loading, but could be used in a pinch. But it primarily be used to move if we cut and pile up some vegetation debris in alleys or sidewalks, kind of haul that out to the street.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the compact tractor and backhoe for $30,761.12 as presented.
Hearing a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second. All those in favor of consideration of approval show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to item 10, which is consideration of approval to purchase an aerial lift bucket truck.
Okay, this again, we're looking to replace an existing piece of equipment. Here we actually currently have 2 bucket trucks, 2 different size bucket trucks. The larger of those trucks, it's a 1998 model truck. It has about a 55-foot vertical reach, and we use those trucks primarily for tree trimming and tree maintenance work around town. There's some other, maintenance. If we had to get to something on the side of City Hall here, we could, but 95% of their work is tree maintenance. But we put out an RFP. Again, this time we're looking for a little bit larger truck. There are some areas we can't quite reach with the existing vehicles that we'd like to. So in our proposal, we went after a little bit, or our request for proposals, we went after a little bit larger truck. Here we received 4 proposals back. one of those did not meet the minimum height or working height requirements that we're asking for. So that left us with 3 proposals. As you can see, we are recommending the highest price of those 3, but give you a little bit of reasoning behind that thought. That we're recommending the Altech truck. One, the 2 current trucks that we have are Altech trucks. They're have been very good trucks, been very reliable, very dependable. We've got really good service out of them. Also, Georgia Power uses Altech trucks, and so they're right down the street from us on Community Road, and our guys have been able to go to them in the past if they have any questions on service or maintenance or that kind of thing. Kind of use that resource and cross-reference a little bit there. A second reason is on the VersaLift truck, that proposal came with an escalation clause. They were asking us to basically sign the agreement that said if the material or supplies needed to build this truck escalated or increased before delivery of the truck, even after we signed the purchase agreement, we agreed to pay that additional cost. So, without knowing what that cost may be, we didn't feel like that was a good agreement to enter. And then the Terex truck did not come with the warranty information or warranty that we were looking for on the truck. Also at the references, we checked a couple of references and did not get a good feel for the Terex truck. So for those reasons, we are recommending going with the Altech truck. It would be a 2023 truck with a 75-foot working lift, all of the current safety components on it. It runs hydraulic tools. There's a hydraulic lift device on it. This purchase price would also include a 5-year extended warranty on the entire machine, the truck itself, the engine, transmission, as well as the lift equipment there. Again, we would recommend purchasing this truck through the GMA lease purchase program. Over the 5 years, the cost of this truck will be approximately $40,000 per year. These payments would come from the general fund and be budgeted through our equipment support budget. But because of the date of delivery of the truck, this truck's almost a year out in delivery. We would hope to get it early in next year. But that would put our first payment due to GMA in fiscal year 24. So we're a little ways out on beginning payments, and those payments would carry on years 24 through 28. So we're asking for approval to purchase the bucket truck from Altech for $192,850.
I'm confused on the price that we were given was $185,665.
That included the base warranty. The 192 purchases the additional warranty on that.
Okay, so the warranty.
I think
at the
their base
level that
warranty was.
we wanted
Right.
cost us $7,100 more.
Right.
$7,100.
I believe their base warranty may have been 2 years on that.
Okay.
So we wanted to extend that. This would get us at least through our payments of the truck. It'd be warranted at least for until it's paid.
Okay, thank you.
paid for.
Thank you, Director. The question that I have is currently, I'm sure Commissioner Roll has heard as well. A lot of people talk about maintenance of trees, whether it's the palm trees or live oaks all around our city. How are we currently, maintaining those trees, or are we able to?
We are right now. We have a crew of 2. We're budgeted for a crew of 2, a tree trimmer and an assistant. The assistant position is currently unfilled and has been for a few months. So we're operating right now with a crew of 1. He stays busy 40 hours a week out trimming trees. Like you say, palm trees, oak trees, whatever it may be. We try to be as proactive as we can with the limited staff, but a lot of it is, reports of fallen limbs or damaged trees or that kind of thing. So a lot of it is reactionary, but I think when we are able to fill the tree assistant position, that will help us kind of get ahead of that a little bit and stay on top of that a little bit.
That's really good to hear. I think the other question that I have is almost a safety question. When you're dealing with the truck that we currently have being as old as it is, are there really some safety concerns for that guy kind of working by himself in the kind of truck that we have currently?
It could be there. It is an older truck. We don't have any concerns that it's dangerous, but obviously it doesn't have the safety features, and it's not as new and going to be as safe as these new trucks should be. He does work sometimes by himself. We try to keep, there's generally somebody with him, even though he doesn't have an assistant. We generally have to have somebody there to pick up debris and limbs as they fall, because a lot of times they fall in the road. So there may be, even though it's not his assistant, an operator there or somebody nearby doing traffic control, that kind of thing for him. So there's usually somebody very close nearby that if anything should go wrong, could be covered. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yep, definitely. I know that there were some conversations that we may move to a place if in the meantime that we might have to move to contracting some tree maintenance. Does this help us kind of, number one, we may have to contract for a little bit, but does this help us come into the city handling this fully where we wouldn't have to contract those services?
Possibly. Our truck we're using now is 25 years old. If it goes out, if it blows a hydraulic line tomorrow, we're out of service until that line gets fixed.
Right.
And so if we have a windstorm, maybe it needs to be contracted out. So I think a new truck would add more reliability into that system, and I think take a lot out of the question there. There may be a need for contract work in the meantime, though.
Right.
You're right.
Well, I appreciate you, Director. Any additional questions from the commission? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the aerial lift bucket truck from Altech Industries for $192,850 with the extended warranty. And I agree with everything that Gary Albertson just said.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Casey. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Harris. Hearing a first and a second. All those who agree show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Going on to the item that we added on the agenda, which would be item 11. We'd like to bring before the commission consideration of approval of 3 service contracts. The first contract being the Splost and Lost consultant. The second contract being a strategic state consultant, and the third contract being an audio and visual consultant to work along with our IT team in bringing our meetings up to modern date. With these 3 service contracts, from conversations that we've had not only with the finance committee, but also with city manager McDuffie, the allocation would be $75,000, 30 for Splost and Lost for Spaulding Loss Consultancy. And what we do know is that that final price as a whole will be more than $30,000, but it allows the commission as well as City Manager McDuffie to start to enter into a contract, as we understand that we are up against that schedule pretty tight, and we need to ensure that we produce a good list with the people's input that we can go to work and start working with county officials. The second, which would be a strategic state consultancy, really pours into the kind of conversations that we've had with several directors here. There are a lot of things that we work on within the city that have a strong direct and financial tie to statewide agencies and statewide leadership. Every other community really throughout Georgia ensures that they have boots on the ground.
Hello? Hello?
Mayor Pro Tem Harris, is that for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost you. I lost y'all for a minute. Y'all went.
That's all right. That's all right. And so the second tranche of money will be to ensure that we can enter into that contract for that individual to start working not only with state agencies and the monies and grants that are moving now currently through the legislative process during session, but also to work throughout the entirety of the year to ensure that we have a voice to our state leaders. And the third really is an audiovisual contract that we in the past had allocated some dollars, if I'm speaking correctly, to take a look at this issue. The person who we contracted with, there was either no work done or very little work done. I will let Director Hill, if he's on, or City Manager McDuffie speak to the current outlay of that. But what we want to do is make sure that our IT team has the kind of support and undergirding that can ensure that our meetings are more accessible to the general public, that how we show these meetings to the general public are easily able to be navigated, and for those even attending in person, a more manageable meeting. And I think we saw some of the things we struggle with some of our directors maybe not being able to share screens immediately, or making that an easier process, and just how do we make all of this easier. With that, I know we have our IT director here with us. I appreciate you being with us. If you don't mind coming to just talk a little bit about some of the conversations that you have had, and some of the things that maybe and hopefully we can do moving forward.
Certainly. Thank you for having me. Our current setup is kind of came when COVID hit, and we're kind of due to update that, make some updates to it to make it, like Mayor Johnson said, more accessible, easy to use, make it smoother for when we have hybrid or completely virtual meetings. There's some equipment that we need to look at probably purchasing, and when it comes to sound, that's something that IT we can maintain, but we're not really the know-all source for audio, so we'd want to look at an audio consultant for that.
I appreciate you, and I know these three contracts come as a whole, and so I appreciate you being it. But I wanted to wait to see if we had any questions before we entertained a motion.
Well, I would like further explanation on the cost and the deliverables anticipated with the state consultant, and really for the AV consultant. I mean, have we already expended money? Where are we with the contract that we did or didn't have with this other entity? Because I know that's been on the board for years now, as far as improving our capabilities for the public to hear when they attend a meeting. But now with COVID, that's thrown everything to a whole nother dimension that we need to be able to handle and deal with as adequately as possible. So, but I don't know what that cost is and where we are with that.
I will allow City Manager McDuffie to speak a little bit to what has been done. I'd like to probably take lead on the strategic state consultant. I think it's their deliverables will be really set forth by the commission. We have several different contracts that navigate, whether you're talking about DCA. I know a major entity that I've had several conversations with is GDOT, and they're maintaining of Newcastle and several other streets throughout, and having deep, really one-on-one conversations with them. So honestly, they would be moving at the direction of the commission to not only deepen those connections. As you can imagine right now, what's happening is when we apply for something with DCA, we're almost just sending an application up there and hoping that something happens. Every other community from, Savannah, Augusta, Macon, Columbus, they all have someone on the ground that can really move that through the process to ensure that they have somebody face to face. So really that allotment of dollars, which is $30,000 in this allotment, helps us start, again, just much like the SPOS loss consultant, helps us start that contract for the back half of this fiscal year. And truthfully, what that allows us to do in Atlanta is every grant that is in process right now, that consultant immediately is going to meet with the head of that agency. But also there are about 4 pieces of legislation that directly affect economic development here locally. The major one that we're really looking at is the historical development tax credit. Right now, that tax credit is being used by every major developer that is working in downtown. That tax credit is set to sunset at the end of this year without direct involvement from local communities, letting leadership know that it's being used. It's probably on its way to sunsetting. So we got to make sure we get somebody up there to tell the good stories of Brad Piazzas and the others who are kind of using that. The second piece, and City Manager McDuffie, I don't know if you're on, or Director Matthew Hill, I know you all kind of work with that AV contract.
Yes, I am. We
Yes,
had
ma'am.
started, as the commissioner may recall, we were trying to make sure to upgrade our audio and video system there in Old City Hall, as it is a primary site for our meetings and the court operations. We entered into a contract to design, because we had had a couple of contractors come through, walk through, and we felt like we needed to have someone design what needed to be placed in that building so that we can approve it and know exactly what we were getting. We did enter into a contract, and I have been following up bi-weekly to see where we were at this moment. And what I told the mayor when he asked me about it was that I don't have anything in hand. I did inquire to Matthew Hill today, and he was supposed to contact that contractor to see if there was a work product available for us. And if not, then we may have to terminate that contract. But I will follow up with him tomorrow, and hopefully we can get some status and know where we are. The thing is, if they have done some work to start that design, we would still have to have, implementation of or approval of that design. And if it's not meeting the needs, then we would, go forth with in the direction of a consultant to help us either implement or redesign what we're looking at.
So it seems premature to me to make a decision on the AV consultant until we have further information. Is that correct?
Well, I think what the mayor was proposing is that, we will need some assistance with this process, regardless of whether we have the design. Now, I don't have anything at this point. So, I mean, it's up to you all. I was hoping Matthew would come back today and say that, they're sending us what their work product at this point, but I don't have it.
And I think for me, one of the questions that I have, I think the initial amount that, and City Manager McDuffie, you can correct me, I think was in the ballpark of 40,000.
That was for the actual equipment and yes, everything that was going to be placed in. It wasn't for the contract that we signed.
There
The
we go.
contract was $2,700. And if we use, well, it was $5,400. And if we use them, the design piece would be reduced down to $2,700.
I heard the number 40,000.
I beg your pardon?
I heard the number 40,000 and
No.
then 2,700.
The 40,000 would be, that was kind of the estimated cost of implementation or putting in the equipment and acquiring the equipment. That was kind of the overall cost of retrofitting the building and doing all of what we needed to do. But it was an estimate. It was not, a quote or anything we got directly. The 2,700 was for the design. And I think that was only half of it. I think if we don't go with let's say at this point that the people we contracted with do have a design that they have produced, I think that would cost us $5,400 of what we contracted with. And if we didn't go forth with them to produce that, they had offered a 50% discount if we use them to do the implementation of that design.
This is my question. If we entered into a contract, why are we at this point saying if they have this or if they have that?
Because I have been, and Matthew's on the call right now, but I have been following up with him bi-weekly requesting, and they have had some issues. The company came down, we had some difficulty with getting a company. We had 2 companies to come down, and this one we chose to do a design for the building. They were working on that design. And what I'm saying is I have not gotten anything in hand yet. So I can't say what we have. But I have been trying to get it done. Been some difficulty with that.
Right, I understand that. And again, that just reiterates my question. If we contracted with them, I understand you've been following up with them, and being that you've been following up with them and we still have nothing, what does that speak to that company?
Matthew, do you have a response to that?
Well, yes, when you asked me Monday or Tuesday if I'd heard anything, I did try to call and got a voicemail, and I emailed and have not heard back from them. The last I had heard was last week when they were, or the week before last, when they were hoping to get started again on our project because of COVID, they've been so short-staffed. And the letter of engagement is the design services are $2,750, and we've paid them half of that, $1,375. But as City Manager McDuffie said, I have not heard anything back from them in 2 weeks.
Okay, but that, a correction, I knew we had paid, it was halving, but
Yeah.
okay, the 2,700 is the total cost of that design.
Of the design
Okay.
service, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
So we've paid them half and we've got 0, and we're having to run them down for the services.
That's correct.
Not a good look.
Madam Pro Tem Harris, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the conversation that I had with City Manager McDuffie was to put their feet to the fire pretty immediately within this week. And I'm glad that, we've seen some movement on us directly reaching out to them and getting, some kind of response with this money being out there. I think it is clear to me that they aren't the kind of contractor we would move forward with. And so it seems to me from what I'm hearing that we may be on the line contractually, and City Attorney Corey, I would love to have some discussion about whether we can see what we actually have to pay in that contract if these services have been so slow and haven't gotten to us as of yet. When I think about the services that we are looking to allocate right now, what I see is us, the commission as a whole honing in and locking in on the amount of money that we would like to spend for the development of what we do in here. It sounds like there's already an allocation of $40,000, Commissioner Martin, if I'm hearing it correctly, for once this consultancy works with our IT team and director, as well as the commission, that $40,000 could be then put to use to buy what we need. But from having conversations with the director, we are in need of, we're in need of some consulting on acoustics. We're in need of some consultants on camera work and how the cameras work with us, not only here, but how we show the committee or the commission meeting to the general public and their access of it. And for us, I think to start out, again, a $15,000 allocation allows not only our IT director, but also the commission to get to work locking that person in to move on it. Because while we allocated dollars and it seems like we entered into a contract, we have had no movement as of yet on that actually happening.
I mean, you would think they would communicate if they are unable to fulfill the timeliness and the deliverables of, that were stipulated in the contract. At this point, even with COVID, communication is key. We can't just assume that COVID, reduced their work staff and so they can't perform or deliver. If they haven't communicated, there should be some point of action that we can take and move this thing forward.
Brian, is this contract, or I guess once you have an opportunity to go back and look at it, is it in line with all our other contracts that if it's not completed in said time, then we have those clauses in that contract?
I need to take time to go back and review it. I haven't been able to review. I think Matthew actually just sent it to me. So it'd be something I need to go look at and then bring you guys back an answer, or at least, and also get with the city manager and talk about what our options would be.
Yeah, if they're in breach of contract or whatever, I think that would be good to know.
And so with that, I wanted to, again, open it up to the commission for some follow-up questions. I do want to throw this out there. I know what I think is, and if there's any consternation or hold up, I definitely want to search that out. But what I think is that there are two pieces of this. I actually think all three are pretty critical. We're already into the second month of the year and we want to get this meeting thing done. But I think it's absolutely critical that we engage that person for Splost and Lost and engage that person in Atlanta. Every day the session is moving by is a very active day. And then Splost and Lost is just, we got to get to work. We got to set that timeline. So though, with that, I think all three are needed. And I've had a conversation with city manager McDuffie as well, that there is an ability to help it remain budget neutral and to shift from other line items that, have not been used. And so with that, I wanted to open it up again to any questions to the commission.
Yeah, I've got a question. How much money are you talking about?
Is there an individual one you're talking about, Commissioner
Yeah,
Casey?
about all this. This is just all too cloudy. It really is. And I think this should be an agenda item. I agree with you that we are behind the eight ball. I don't disagree with that. But this is an awful lot to throw out here to be voted on tonight with very little information.
Commissioner Kaysen, what I would say to that is I think when we deal in the space of service contracts, as we can see, there are some contracts that have been allotted and moved on, that we haven't kind of maintained. And so for me, what I think tonight is allocating the correct dollar amount so the commission can start to have conversations to bring people into these positions, because we know the positions need to be filled kind of ASAP, and we need to move on these things.
Did this go through the finance committee, these 3 items?
It did
Were
go.
they approved there?
It did go through the finance committee, yes, sir.
I guess we need more information on what's going on at the finance committee then. If we're going to be asked to do this kind of addition to an agenda.
No, I'd be happy. And one of the things that I've talked to commissioners about is 2 things inside of that. I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner Kaysen, for us to start to have a 2 different work sessions, actually a work session around the agenda, and then also a financial or finance committee work session that we go through before it moves into the finance committee, being that we only meet as a finance committee once a month, which I think puts us behind the 8 ball on moving some of these things forward. So I think the pace and the speed at which the commission receives information is something I think city staff and we're diligently at work on. But I would contend that these are some things that we need to move on this evening. As
let me just, and I hate to interrupt you, but what we need better planning. And that's where we need to start out is with better planning. And certainly you get behind the 8 ball, but communications and planning are what we really and truly need to implore here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need more information. I know the lost consultant is awfully important, and you and I had a short conversation about some ideas that I had there, and I've not heard anything back from anybody about it. Now we're going to approve it. So I don't think that we need to move forward on these things this way.
I think the thing that I would respond to that, Commissioner Kaysen, is the process by which I stepped into as mayor, and the process that I have gleaned from what has happened in the past was to bring this before the finance committee, have a deep conversation of the need to move on these things, and then bring it towards the totality of the commission. It would be my hopes that we not stall this right now, that we move forward with this allocation right now, so we can have a greater discussion about what we want these individuals to execute upon. And it seems to me that there seems to be a small break that once dollars are allocated from this commission, as it pertains to us following up as a whole, that's where the commission will then step together and really build out the deliverables that we want to see from these contracts.
So what's being asked here is the approval of the allocation, and then there would be a more thorough vetting of the actual
Yes, that is
expectation of the deliverables, a defining of the exacts. But we're just asking for the approval of the allocations for these potential areas.
So, yeah, because I do, to get hit with this at the meeting is challenging, and it makes it difficult to understand exactly what's entailed, what the deliverables are, how this is going to work. So are you looking for a vote to expend 30,000, not to exceed 30,000, Because if it exceeds it, we need to know. So
Completely agree.
up to, but not to exceed 30,000 for a SPOS loss consultant yet to be determined,
Mhm.
but would be interviewed, would
Yes.
be vetted, all of that. Same thing with the state consultant, that we could be given more information about what those deliverables are, what they're going to do, what they hope to accomplish, how they're going to utilize those funds not to exceed 30,000. But then the AV, since we've already budgeted 40,000, I'm not sure I understand what vote needs to be taken, because we need to look at the contract. There's some further information that we need really before anything can be done with that. Is
No,
that a correct
I'm
assessment?
happy. I'm happy to bifurcate that ask. The thing that I think about is, it would seem to me, and City Manager McDuffie can clarify, it would seem to me that the $40,000 is for the complete project.
Right.
And they used a piece of that $40,000 to give to this company, because this company projected that it could do the whole thing. And so the piece that I'm looking for is, if that 40,000, well, I mean, I guess is 37,000, whatever it is now. If we are happy to use that budgetary allotment to get another consultant in here who can go toe for toe and go ahead and move us through the process, I'm happy to not have that allotment a part of it. And we can still use the allotment already locked in for the 40,000. It would seem to me, and I'm not sure, that every time we ding that 40,000, that also may be a piece of equipment that we're not able to get, because that seems to be one budgetary ask. That's my assessment of it. But I'm happy. I'm more than happy to delay and defer the audio and visual, and kind of go with those two. I'm happy, because it definitely seems like we have some work to do with City Attorney Corey, as well as City Manager McDuffie, to ensure that we're being good stewards of those dollars. Hearing no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
I'm gonna do those too, right?
Just
Okay, I motion to approve the two allocations of the SPOS and loss consultant, and then the state consultant.
not to exceed 30,000.
Not to exceed 30,000 each.
There we go. Hearing a motion, do I hear a second?
And we're just talking about just those two, right? 'Cause we're
Yes, ma'am.
going to hold on the IT matter.
Yes, ma'am. The audio, visual, and IT, we are wrapping. We're taking that away, and we're going to have continued conversations with City Attorney Corey, as well as City Manager McDuffie, to see where we are on that contract.
Okay. I'll second that motion, because at this point, we need to get our business handled and get our business in line regarding the SPOS and the lost.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for a first and a second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
I've got a question. How much are we going to pay these people again? I want it on the record.
Yes, sir. Right now, the allotment that we are putting before us is an allotment not to exceed $30,000 on both the lost and splost consultant, as well as the statewide strategic consultant.
All right. How were these consultants picked?
City Manager McDuffie, can you speak to how service contracts are usually handled, or City Attorney?
How were these
or-
particular consultants picked?
Well, I think we haven't picked them yet. The contracts would come back tonight. If I understand correctly, it's just a question of allocating the funds towards obtaining these services, because the contracts would still need to come back for the commission to vote upon.
Exactly.
Sounded to me like you had some selections and if I misread that.
Yes, you
Yeah,
did. You did, Commissioner
you're
Casey.
misreading that. Yeah, you're
And
misreading.
I'm sorry, this is Mayor Pro. That's why I said that we're just, and I tried to break it down to say, we're just allocating monies. Then we will come back together to specify those specifics that you've addressed, as well as Commissioner Martin has addressed. But at this point, we're just getting those monies in place so that we can move with getting these people in place. Nobody has been put in place yet. We're still coming together to shore up the deliverables we expect and the expectations that we expect from these two positions. Because right now, everybody else has their consultants lined up and in place, and we don't.
That was my understanding as well.
Thank you.
Did you hear what I said?
We didn't hear you,
Did you
Johnny.
not?
I'm sorry, we didn't hear you, Commissioner.
Explanation. Let's move forward.
Nobody,
Thank you.
no consultants have specifically been named, nor will they be named until.
I think he was saying thank you. That was the explanation he was looking for.
Okay, okay.
I think, I don't want to speak.
Appreciate that.
No, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaysen. Hearing a first and a second for a motion to approve, I will, well, we already have the motion in the second. All those who are in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you so much.
And can I say this, Mayor? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, I'm
Just
sorry, Mayor.
to make sure that everybody has understanding. And to make sure that Commissioner Kaysen also, and I appreciate you coming back in at the end. But we've been talking about this for a long time, Commissioner Kaysen, and saying that we need people in place. Well, others have gotten their people in place, and we're still talking about getting people in place. We're behind.
I agreed with that right up front, that we were behind. I don't disagree with that.
No, I
Thank you.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
commissioners, and I think we are, I appreciate these conversations because we're doing the hard work to make sure when we do it, we get it right. I think one of the things that I want to institute, not only for this entirety of the commission, but it seems like there were some questions about follow-up of delivery of contracts. I think that is something that not only myself, but the entirety of the commission will start to work a little more diligently with city staff to get very clear and transparent understanding of not only deliverables beforehand, but also how are they progressing on those deliverables. And so that's important to me, as I know the city has several contracts out there, and us needing consistent and regular updates is something that will be important to every single person on the commission.
If I may, I'd like to say that, when you have an agenda, the agenda is to let the public know what we're doing. And when we come up and add things like this, it opens the door for different kind of thoughts and processes. So I say, if we have an agenda, let's try to, and it's advertised, let's do everything we can as a commission to represent that agenda. Now, if we've got an emergency, I understand taking care of the emergency, but these things need a lot of study, and it takes a lot of time to do it. So that's I think important to try to abide by a printed agenda that's been advertised. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Case.
Appreciate it very much. I really do.
No, we appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. We'll move on to city attorney's items. Number 12, discussion of proposed ordinance number 1074, which is the short-term rental ordinance. I know we had several questions or several, a pretty good discussion last meeting. We want to open the floor up for additional discussion. I think we have Mr. Kitts here, who provided what I would think was some background to commissioners. So we want to be able to open the floor to him for him to speak kind of directly to that. But as we open it up, I would like to hopefully start out with City Attorney Corey. I know you talked a little bit about the process that you'd already been through, and Commissioner Martin as well, and her leadership to get us to this place. It seems like we have a really strong working framework that mirrors the county. You don't want, people coming in and having to work through two different sets of regulations. So, but there's also some understanding from the community of some things that maybe need to be tweaked and looked at. So I would love just a little background again on the process thus far.
That's you've laid it out pretty accurately, and if it's all right, I'll stay over here if that's okay with the commission. The points that Mayor Pro Tem brought up during the last meeting have been relayed to my office. I've been able to look through those. I agree that some of them I think are easily adopted. Exemplar agreements that the city of Savannah requires. I don't think we'd have any problem implementing that within our own. I do think there are some of the comments that I think that we might benefit from sitting down, including Mr. Kitts, perhaps Mayor Pro Tem, if we could set up sort of an internal meeting where we can talk through these and discuss some of the suggested additions to our ordinance. While I, last meeting stated that I, of course, would ideally like to mirror some of the requirements in the county, so that if we have individuals that own properties in both city and the county, that there's some uniformity there. We certainly are situated differently than the properties in the county. So I do think that if there needs to be additional, tweaking of what we have going on in the city, and I used the example last time as the alcohol ordinance, there are major differences that we would see there, and how we have to license certain businesses as opposed to how the county might do it. So I think it would be my suggestion, perhaps set up a meeting with some of the interested parties in between now and the next commission meeting, so that maybe we can hammer out. Again, I think some of the changes are relatively easy in requiring. A couple of the other ones I'd like to do a little bit more in-depth discussion, such as the owner-occupied definition and how that has played into. Savannah's actually got a little bit more complex in that they've got a zoning section as well, and a cap, how many properties of each. They have multiple wards. I think over 40 wards in the city of Savannah are broken down, and they apply a 20% cap on non-owner occupied short-term vacation rentals. So it gets a little complex there. I know that they have a need for that complexity in Savannah. I just want to see how our need would be served and do so. So it's kind of where I've gone and looked at it. I haven't made those changes to the ordinance yet, because I think it'd be important that we sort of sit down and have this internal discussion.
I thank you for that, City Attorney Corey. Mr. Kitts, you could definitely come up to the front for some public comment. I think what I want to do before is open the floor for questions to City Attorney Corey. If anyone has kind of some questions on where we are right now, if there are any base kind of questions about the ordinance as it stands. One of the things that I will, just say from my position is currently there is no ordinance.
That's correct.
So currently someone could misuse our community in a way of buying 50 homes and turning them all into short-term rentals or VRBOs and party houses. And currently there is nothing on the rolls to regulate that action. So the longer we wait and having some kind of solid ordinance to put forward, the longer we leave ourselves open to that. So I just wanted to put that out here. I'm thankful for everyone who's done, hard work to get us to this point. So with that, is there any questions again for City Attorney Corey about the framework of where we are? Hearing none, Mr. Kitts, the floor is yours.
Just like to say that, thank you. I will be available for any meeting that you want me at. I'll look at my calendar, but for the most part, I'm available after 11 a.m. That's right. And just let me know when, and we can further go in. But I will leave the commission with one thing, along the same lines. For every landlord that converts their property to a short-term rental versus a long-term rental, where does that renter go?
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
have a strong demand. I do have a question though, and it does point back to that ADA.
Sure.
So on page 11
Right.
of the proposed ordinance, at the very top of the page, item H, it says the applicant fails. Okay, when would they not be able to renew their application? Is if the applicant fails to offer accommodations for disabled individuals seeking to rent the applicant's property.
Right.
That's so open. That to me would sound like anybody who has a short-term rental has to have it ADA compliant, which is, I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know how the county is that mirrored in the county?
No, that was a direct request after one of the readings, more recent readings at the city commission level, at our level, to look into, how we might look at, I won't say requiring ADA accessibility at these rental properties, but the potential if there is abuse. I don't know if abuse is somewhat of a harsh term, but if there's a reasonable request for accommodation for disability at a rental home, and there's, I guess you could say, a continued denial of that, perhaps that might be something that the city commission takes into discretion in going to renew or reviewing the accommodation excise tax.
So it would
certificate.
seem to me that
It's a delicate, it's certainly going to be a delicate balance, but it was a request that was made to see if we could, encourage. It might be more so that we look and try to just simply encourage our short-term rentals in the city to offer accessibility in their rentals.
I would think that there would be some that would.
Mhm.
And so my thought would be those opportunities for short-term rental need to be easily identified online, through advertising, whatever it might be, and certainly through the application process. Is your property ADA compliant so that the city knows whether or not it is?
Right. Okay.
To me, it needs to be quantified a little bit more so that people know what to expect,
All right.
both from a property owner standpoint and from a tenant standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So with that, and I may not understand all of the applicable laws or what have you. So with that statement and the ADA accessibility, is that not a requirement by law? Because they are now moving from a residential property to a commercial property?
Still residential.
There is currently no state requirement in Georgia that these short-term or for rent by owner properties there's no requirement that they offer ADA accessibility. No.
And so what were you saying, Commissioner Martin? You said it's still residential?
Yeah, they're still residential properties.
But is it not
Commercial.
moving to a commercial side?
Well,
Because they're making a profit off of it now.
Sure, but it would be the same as any other private rental of a property, you know, similar to a long-term rental. You know, based on my research, there were no requirements. There's certainly an extensive amount of discussion surrounding the requirement of ADA accessibility in short-term rentals, but at present, there's no law that would require it. But it's certainly being contemplated throughout the United States as to what solution might be available.
Okay.
Now that is different for long-term, especially if it's commercial property, like apartments or something they have to have. I don't know if it's at least one or it depends on how many units there are in the complex, but they have to have ADA accommodations, not in every unit, but in one or two or whatever. the
Similar
laws.
to a hotel
Yeah,
or a motel.
What does the state law say?
It is absent. There's a void.
So not even for a condominium association or the homeowners association, there's no state law?
I mean, no, on a privately owned resident, like a single family resident, there's no state law that requires it to have ADA accessibility. Now, a condominium complex might be governed differently as it's a multifamily unit, but there's not, you know, singularly owned condos. You can't place a requirement on a private owner of that condo to, you know, put ADA accessibility in their condo. I think part of that is because the person could simply say, okay, well then I'm not short-term renting it anymore. And then they would still, you know, you're starting to begin to infringe on some of those private property rights where there's clearly the balancing act of what the state, you know, is trying to put in place in terms of legislation. But, you know, you cannot go to a private property owner and state your property and inside of it must be ADA accessible.
We're telling them in here, though, that they have to provide disability parking. And it has to be marked.
Right. If there's disability parking, that must be marked in the same, you know, situation.
Right. As long as we're in compliance with state laws.
Just for point of clarification, City Attorney Corey, to my knowledge, there isn't a statewide law
on short-term rentals.
Right. Am I correct on that, or?
That's correct.
Yeah, there's not one.
Yeah, right. And so I think one of the things that we also have to realize is, you know, I worked on, you know, probably about 4 or 5 short-term rental bills on the statewide level. And there is a huge pushback on there being consolidated statewide guidelines on short-term rentals, because once the state passes those guidelines, they will supersede anything that you have on a local level. And so when we were having conversations, there are so many localities like our own, like Savannah, and, you know, like Augusta during the Masters, that have done some really hard work internally to find out how to locally handle their regulations. And so, to be very honest to the commission, there probably isn't going to be a lot of movement on the statewide level for there to be regulation across the board. So the more we can get this right, the better for our community.
Absolutely.
With that, any further questions for City Attorney Corey right now? We appreciate you and thank you, Mr. Kitts, for showing up and being a really stalwart member of the community and helping us with that. With that, I know we have 3 items, I think, for executive session. This is my first time, so I will turn it over to City Attorney Corey to ensure I'm doing this correctly.
There is a need for executive session as it pertains to real estate litigation and one separate item.
First,
I can't identify it. I'll give you the exception to the Open Records Act.
There we go. That being said,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive session to discuss real estate and litigation.
Second.
hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing
I've got
none.
a question. I've got a question. We're going for real estate litigation and what else?
Documents that would fall within one of the exceptions, it's 50-14-3.
That's really good lawyer speak. I appreciate it. Give me another dash and some more numbers.
There are more.
All right, I say aye.
No, we appreciate it. I wanted to take just really quick personal privilege. I wanted to say thank you through the work of the mayor's office in connection with Senator Sheila McNeil, as well as Representative Don Hogan and Representative Al Williams. We have dropped 2 bills in the state legislature, both one in the Senate and one in the House. Those bills under our leadership would provide for a free SAT for every single one of our students. And the bill that we are working on not only affects Brunswick, but also affects the state as a whole. The reason this is important to us is because we are in a rural community and a lot of our students have to travel to take the SAT. The more that we can work as city officials and work with state leaders to get rid of that barrier and to help our kids really realize the fullness of their potential and future, that's what we hope to do. So I want to say a big thank you to Senator Sheila McNeil, Representative Don Hogan, Representative Al Williams, and partnering with us to push this on a statewide level. And we will keep everyone updated as we move this through the legislative process. So I appreciate that. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Adjourning to.
Adjourn to executive session.
Thank you. Adjourn to executive session.
Which we come back. Go out, and then we come back in here.
Here, Naomi, let me write it down. I'll get you a better expectation. Still good. Still need to present to invite. I did. One of them.
What's that? So when we come back from executive session.
We have come back from executive session. No votes were taken. We have one item to discuss, and I will now open it for a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we authorize the mayor to execute and sign the quitclaim deed on the property located at 2115 Union Street to release any interest that the city has in the property at that location. Oh, thank you. With regard to the tax deed of 1989.
Hearing a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
All those approved show by usual sign of aye.
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 All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the ayes have it. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
There we go. We motion
I'll
to
take a
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There we go. So here